Mm. Hey y'all, thanks for being here. If you're here, we are going to do a debate panel hosted by our good friend Admiral Gibbs. We usually have here on Mondays. So he invited me to the debate panel about Trump and Elon and the whole new presidency. So that's what we're going to do. I'm already in a Discord VC with these guys. So what we're going to do is just jump in and have a little talk, have a little chat. Hopefully it'll be fun. We'll see. I think it's my first time being on one of his. Maybe not. Maybe I was on another panel. I don't remember. But here we go. 1 second while I get everything together. One second. What the fuck?
Is that just sometimes just because you want them to?
No, just because this is what I decided to like, and then and look at like where it technically fits on its own. Like this one specific policy view I like, and it's like, wow, that would actually be classified as like this and this, even though I'm that and that.
Oh, Admiral's here. All right, you guys remember what I told you, okay? Just don't tell Admiral.
Don't do that tonight. Come on.
I'm just kidding. You know I'm kidding.
All right, here's what we're gonna. All right, just a couple things before we go live. I'm waiting on Charlie. She's the 80 minute. I just talked to her.
I'm already
nice, nice fit, by the way. There, Grid, love it, big fan. Oh, okay, cool. Well, the rule, y'all, some of y'all been on my panels before, some of y'all haven't. We're gonna do things a little. We're gonna try a different set today. What we're going to do for intros, I'm going to server mute everybody. I'm going to come to y'all one at a time and unmute y'all then. And we're going to like give you a little one-liner for y'all's intro that I've written out. And then y'all are going to I'm going to just ask y'all to say whatever else you want to say. And then we're going to go through and just say what you want about y'all's channel. And then we're going to come back around and we're going to do intros for the topics. And we got a bunch of topics. So let's try to like, if we want to talk like I'm okay with exchanges, but like, raise hands and I'll get to you. And
I let everyone else know, Gibbs, but I'll let you know in about probably about 5 minutes now. My alarm will go off for my food, and I'll need to run up, grab my food, and come back. So
you're fine. We're waiting for Charlie anyway before we really kick this thing off. She said she'd be here in a second. So yeah, you got 5 minutes anyway. We'll start 5 minutes late, but yeah, that's the plan. So I'll come back to y'all. And we'll do intros again. And then, like I said, raise hands if you want to talk. There's some exchanges are good, but like try to like let people finish. I don't want this to turn into a goddamn total shit show. But if it does, whatever.
Anyone mind?
I'll be right back.
I go live on my end. They'll be able to see and hear you. Is that fine?
Yeah, go live now. That's fine. I'm
good.
about to go live in a second. I'll be right back.
I'll just I don't know, mute myself or something while I do this. Hold on. Well, gang, we are live. I'll mute myself so no one else has to listen to me bitch and moan here. Give me a second.
I muted myself too, so I'm just gonna. We're just waiting, everyone, if you're here, to get this panel started. We'll see what this will look like. I don't know. But we're supposed to have some exciting guests that Gibbs has managed to wrangle. So I'm interested in hearing in experiencing that. But yeah, so while we're waiting, we are let's see. I'm gonna read you what Gibbs. I never know how to like stall for time. And all these years here, I still don't know how to stall for time. It's like unbelievable, man. But let's see. What did Gibbs send to me? So you understand the topic of the debate. He says, I want to do a Great Divide debate / discussion. Parentheses like the major disconnect between right and left on Trump policy. Close parentheses. And talk generally on some of these interconnected topics. Doge, cutting spending, foreign policy, soft power, USAID and tariffs, Russia / Ukraine, and Magaza? It says MAGA. I didn't notice that before. He says MAGA at the end, but then it's like OZA, so maybe he meant Gaza, and then there's like spell check. Accidentally put MAGA in there. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. But it's a bit weird. Yeah, we'll see. So it looks like we're still waiting. Someone else is joining. I don't know this person. Oh, is that Aiko? Aiko will be here as well. No, it's another person named Charlie. In fact, let me see if I can shrink this. This isn't my usual setup, so we're doing this on the fly. And let's see if we can center. So anyway, right. Let's see. We're waiting. Oh, maybe we're getting started soon. Let me unmute.
All right, guys, perfect. Yeah, I'm just gonna start mute everybody real quick so we can do an intro, and then we'll be all on mute y'all as we go.
Your audience.
All right. I hope everybody's ready. Welcome to another episode. Oh wait, let me unmute this shit. That'd be helpful. Welcome to another episode of Give Me a Break. We have a fantastic panel tonight to discuss the real state of the union after Trump's amazing congressional events yesterday. I'm sure there's going to be some hot topic and opinions. We have a wonderful panel. Let's go to one of the strongest MAGA supporters, which is actually a center lefty, Average Debater. Tell us who you are, where to find you, what you do.
Tyler, Average Debate Enjoyer. I make really boring content about things that most people don't care about. Right now, we're working on a housing policy I thought up, getting left and right wingers to participate in it. It's super nerdy. If you don't care, then more power to you. But if you do, come check me out. Otherwise, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, Average Debate Enjoyer.
Thanks. Fantastic. Thanks so much. All right, from center lefty to the reason why I'm in Twitch poll at all, the first guy who gave me a chance here, it's Wick TV. So if y'all hate any of my takes, it's all his fault. Go ahead. What do you do, Papa?
Well, my name's Wick. I host a show called Wick TV. It's a debate show where we have debates. That's my show. That's me. Here I am.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being here, Wick. Appreciate it.
My alarm went off. I'll be right back.
Great. Enjoy. Grab your food. But to the other guy who gave me a chance here, Twitch poll, another wonderful lefty, the host of the Reverie, and which I'm on every Monday, and All Black Everything, Mr. Prime K, K's himself.
Well, thanks for having me here. Shout out to my good friend Gibbs for inviting me to this. Yeah, but my name is Prime. I do panels such as this. You'll find Gibbs on my panels Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, but we do other panels. So come check me out on YouTube or Twitch at Prime Kai. So PrimeCayes. If you enjoy what I do here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. To another one of my favorite writers, we have Mr. Grid One Motorsports. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I'm Grid One Motorsports. I do commentary, some debates. I have a show on YouTube that's decent, I guess. I don't know. And that's kind of what I do. I just talk shit on the internet. Hope to get paid.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. To the head of the unofficial MAGA headquarters and one of my favorite lawyers, Pintable TV.
That's right. I am the self-declared head of MAGA headquarters here on Twitch, and we also stream baseball in the summer. So baseball and politics, mostly on Twitch, right here.
All right, thank you so much. And finally, last but not least, we have Miss Enemy Charlie, one of my favorite members of the Cute House, and according to Modi201, his future wife, based off what I saw on TwitchCon. I know she probably hates me for saying that, but we all saw it. We all saw it get married. But thank you so much for being here. Tell us who you are, what you do.
No, thank you for having me. Hello. I just woke up. I stream on Twitch. I talk about politics sometimes. But mostly I don't actually know what I do. I do stuff. My background is not in politics; it's in fantasy literature. So, I'll be honest with you. I'll try to keep up. I'll do my best, but I could tell you more about Tolkien than I could about foreign policy.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, so I guess today's the topic. We're going to talk about the congressional address. I guess to start, it's kind of going to be a little bit of a moving topic. So if I start talking, y'all try to let me get in here so that we can just for order and move maybe to the next topic if something's played out for a while because there was a lot of stuff in there. Let's start with a general appraisal. Y'all can just give intros on what y'all thought over everything. We'll start with the same order we went in here for that. Average debate, Jordan.
So we're talking about the State of the Union?
Yeah, let's talk about the congressional address.
Yes.
The real State of the Union.
Yeah, State of the Union. I think generally the speech, like if you watch like a lot of Trump speeches, there's nothing there you haven't heard. Like even the jokes, the Marco Rubio getting 99 votes joke has been verbatim said by him. I think I've heard it 6 times. Generally, like it's the exact same speech you hear at his rallies and all these different things he goes to. It's pretty canned. Generally, though, like he was elected, the State of the Union, I think, is pretty strong always. I think almost everything is hyperbole in politics, and almost every president was pretty damn good in the last 25 years. So I think we're all doing great, and everyone's just got their panties up in a bunch. So,
all right, thank you so much, Mr. Wick TV.
Okay, so first of all, it was the longest State of the Union address on record, at least for the joint session of Congress. That man can talk. Paint off the walls. It was boring. I think if I had to use one word, it was boring. Lame is another word I would use. He didn't touch on anything. The most important thing he touched on was his doubling down on tariffs, which are going to strip the economic power of America and destroy us economically. So that's fun. Won't that be great? Here we are. That's my thoughts. That's a good intro. There you go.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime K's. Guys, excuse me.
As usual, I disagree with my friend Wick. I think that it was interesting. It was interesting speech. I mean, I was playing Cyberpunk 2077 while I was listening to it, but I thought it was interesting still. And that it laid out like what the priorities were. Now it sounded like a campaign speech because mostly it was, right, especially at the very start of it, but it let the public know, right, let everyone understand exactly what he thought was important, right? Harassing illegal immigrants, tariffs, right, like Doge, right? These are the things that he made a point of going through and very thoroughly laying out like what he wanted to do with these things. So I thought it was actually useful, and I'm glad other people watched as well.
All right, thank you so much. Grid 1.
Yeah, man. Hey, I really appreciate you having me here again, Wick. Wick, Gibbs. Hey, man.
I know we look so much alike. We look very much
I know
alike.
well, I don't know. It's the hoodie, man. I can't get over the hoodie. So I liked it. I liked everything about the address. I really especially liked that basically everything that we had or that I had mentioned in the debate just a couple hours earlier, Trump actually repeated almost everything. No, not everything I said, but several things I said. We're going to get into that later. It was fucking awesome. I loved it. It was great. I can't say it enough. I think the Democrats embarrass themselves, and I think that they really need to grow up. And that's all.
All right, Pin Supple.
As the head of MAGA headquarters, I watch nearly every Trump speech he gives. I watched him during the campaign, and I'll say I think this was one of his best speeches. I think part of that is probably the joy that I feel now that we're actually implementing everything that we campaigned on. It doesn't surprise me that maybe if you didn't vote for Trump, that you'd be kind of seething at this time. It's probably one of the worst positions to be in. But I thought he covered his first 2 months very well. He talked about the future of his term and what he wants to do. He showed good things that have been happening. I thought it was really touching what he did with the 13-year-old boy with brain cancer and stuff. And you can accuse him of doing optics, but I think all the Democrats sitting there in pink are equally aware of how this is an optics game. So I would say he won on the optics, he won on the substance. I thought it was a great speech. I keep hearing whether it was a State of the Union or a joint sessions like speech. I don't know if that's like meaningful distinction or not, but
It's not really. It's just a technicality.
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, whether it was a State of the Union or not, I thought it was a great speech, and I enjoyed watching it. Obviously, as someone who supports him and wanted him to do all of this, hearing him come out and say, "We're doing all of this" and actively doing it, it's a great place to be in.
All right, thank you so much, and Enemy Charlie.
I thought that I was particularly irritated. My politics are very left, by the way. I didn't bring that up. I would consider myself a Marxist. I was very irritated by the again, the paltry show of resistance by the Democrats. I think, wearing pink in protest and having a "this is not normal" sign is very pathetic. Did not appreciate seeing that. I thought that bringing up the kid with cancer thing was weird. As far as I know, I think that they've cut cancer research funding. So that's, I guess, fuck that kid and his family or something. I'm honestly, it felt like a lot of Trump slop, which is a lot of bragging. With, I feel like not much to show for it. As far as I know, I think that like the Supreme Court just overturned the cuts to the USAID funding. So I just feel like, honestly, right now he's bragging about executive orders that aren't really, actually taking place in a meaningful way. Those are my thoughts on it. Oh, and tariffs. Fuck.
Yeah, talk about
That's gonna
tariffs.
suck.
Don't forget that.
The stock market has crashed, didn't it?
Yeah.
No, it hasn't crashed, but it's dropping again, right?
Yeah,
so
that's a crash.
that's like a special tariffs, special treat for all of us Americans.
Buy the dip.
Yeah, at least the egg prices are down.
Buy the dip.
Right?
Buy the dip. You're not buying them.
Let him finish, and then
Best thing I've seen in ages, man.
Sorry.
Yeah, let him finish here. Then we'll open it up for discussion. Was that it?
Are you done, Emily?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, my bad then. I didn't mean to stop the session. One point of order. I want to shout out everybody for being here. Thanks so much. We'll get you all properly shouted out here throughout the stream. Thank you all once again for coming. I'm excited. If you feel like you can't get in, as always, raise your hand. We'll try to keep it one at a time so people can hear us, but some exchanges are good. Go ahead. Stick it, boys. Attack.
So I think the kid with cancer who was made a honorary Secret Service agent, I think is indicative of Trump's style and how Trump operates. He was given a honorary Secret Service, but the funding for his cancer research to help cure him and help him was cut. Hang
on. Can I?
Let me finish.
This is such a.
Let me finish. So, again, this constant appeal to aesthetics of things that make people go rah rah rah, but do absolutely nothing. And when we get into the nitty gritty, when we get into actually governing this country, he does not know what he is doing. He is constantly making the wrong moves, both in domestic policy with tariffs, foreign policy with Ukraine, and just consistently fucking up. He has made us weaker, more poor, and worse off than we have been in a long, long time. And it's what, day 60, day 70?
All right. So on the cancer research thing, there's not one place that does cancer research. Okay. And second of all, we know the government is bloated. Just because they put down cancer research, $30 million, doesn't mean that $30 million is being used effectively for cancer research.
What was it being?
Nobody's going to challenge you that we want to do cancer research. What we're challenging is this the best way to do it? Is this the most effective way to use our money to pursue these goals? I think a lot of times when you involve the government, it's not. Nobody's going to challenge that we want cancer research. But you're acting like, we cut one program for cancer research. Now there's no cancer research. This has no chance. That makes no sense. That's such a, what are we doing here?
Can I get a little clarity in what you just said? And maybe you just misspoke, but like at the very start you said, there's no place that does cancer research, or maybe you meant
no. I said there's not just. Sure. I'm saying there's not just one place that does cancer research. There's not like one program. There's not like one facility.
They have a budget for it.
What he did was
low, by the way.
Right, but what I'm saying is when you have the government involved, that's where you're going to have not necessarily unsustainable, but
are bad.
No, I think that they can be bad. I think they can. Just because they write down something pretty doesn't mean that that's going to be the most effective use of our money for that.
To cancer research is bad.
Right.
It goes
Not
to
if it's
universities.
actually going to that research and being used effectively. If it's getting derailed into all these bureaucratic costs, then no, I don't want to fund that anymore. I want to fund cancer research in a way that doesn't involve.
Universities.
Let's go to
That's right, but if it's getting derailed into all these administrative costs, and then we send $30 to $1 for actual research, then that's not how we should research cancer.
Okay,
That's not how we should research cancer. No, but it is. But it is.
Hold on, Devil. Let's go to Charlie, and then we're going to go to Prime, and then I'll let Grid and Tyler get in on this. Go ahead.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
I got your back. I know everybody wants to get in. Go ahead, Charlie.
All right, so federal grants for things like cancer research go to universities. We have a budget for it, and it's like,
Yeah.
I would think that based on the amount of, I don't know, fucking body of research on cancer that we have seen over the years, which has been insane. I think they're doing the research on cancer.
I'm not suggesting they're not doing the research.
No evidence that has
Let her
suggested
finish.
otherwise. Unless you have
I'm
something
not suggesting they're not doing the research. I'm suggesting if we send $30 million and get $2 million worth of research because half of it gets derailed in administrative costs at universities, that's not the most efficient way for us to be studying these things. There's other ways that we can study cancer. Nobody's going to challenge you on studying cancer. We all want to study cancer. Sending money to universities is not the only way we do this.
Let Charlie respond to that. Hold on. Let Charlie respond to that.
I would say we should ensure, just to give you my clear position so that you can respond to it. I would say I want programs that at universities to get these grants, and I want to have more oversight. I want to be ensured. I want to know that when we're giving these grants out, that we're getting that much in our research back. We want to have an efficient process. That's all we're asking for. When you have the government involved, it's not about what the process is. They're just generally inefficient. Bureaucratic costs get involved all the time with these kinds of things. We grant this much money and barely any of it gets there.
Let me let Charlie respond to that. Don't interrupt there. Let me finish, and then we're going to try to get some of the other people in here because I know some other people haven't got a chance to talk.
Appreciate that.
And I know you're objective to Temple. I like the fire, but let's just let her go here real quick. Go ahead.
Also, I'm okay with fire. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure,
Usually when I go on, I used to go on one of these sorts of things, and it would be like a bunch of dudes screaming at me and calling me like slurs. So you know what?
Listen, I'm not doing it to baby you. I just want to get some order here. Yeah, no, I'm not doing it to baby you. I just want like all of the people to get in here at some point. But go ahead, respond to what he said.
But I do appreciate that. And okay, I would like to see where you're getting those numbers about like 30 million for cancer, but only 2 million goes to the research. Also, the thing about I agree with you in the sense that I do think certainly there does need to be, more oversight, I suppose, in many of the things that our federal budget funds. But they don't have like a doctor that specializes in cancer research overseeing these things. Like Elon Musk is not a doctor. Do they have cancer doctors working for?
You think he signed off on it by himself? Like one person looked at this?
Yeah, I think that like yes, actually. Not just.
Well, then you're wrong. You think one person looks at these before the decision is made? Elon isn't even capable of making these decisions. He's not the one who can sign off on it.
Well, Trump signs off on it, but they like
he's an advisor.
Goons, dude. It's them and their fucking goons.
Okay,
yeah, it's
let's go to
anyone.
I know Prime's trying to get in here.
Professional.
Let's go to Prime and then Grid.
Says you? Do you work there? Are you in the office? How do you even know who's there? You don't even know who's in the office.
Okay, if that's the standard, you have no idea as well, Pentuple. But thanks. So what I believe Pentuple is trying to get at, he's talking about indirect costs, right? So we have funding grants that we send through the National Institute of Health. We send them out to universities and organizations that do various research. Basically these grants are proportioned so that a portion that goes to direct costs, in terms of, hey, I'm the scientist doing the experiment, right? And then here's me buying the equipment. That's a direct cost, right? And maybe finding research participants, right? That's split versus indirect costs, right? What he's been calling administrative costs. And these may be the administrator who is the boss of these individuals, right? All the scientists, and who manages all the research projects, right? Who manages the laboratory, right? So maintaining the laboratory. Now, this is important. So what happened was, so everyone's on the same page, is that Trump capped it at a 15% indirect cost that could be apportioned. Previously, these things were depending on the organization, they negotiate their own costs. And bigger research institutions had bigger indirect costs. So sometimes you would have, and I think Pentemple might have brought that up, is that half of the money might have gone to administrative costs. Now you might say, oh my God, this is just too much, right? We want more of the money going to the actual research, right? And that's understandable. However, what this does, right, like because they have such a generous amount of money going to administrative costs, it allows them to do lots of other things. It ends up subsidizing all kinds of research, either research they're doing directly for the government or for other institutions, right? When we have these universities, let's say, right, who get these grants with this amount of indirect costs that allows them to expand their horizons. Maybe, again, for government work, for cancer, for anything, right, for anything you might be wanting to do. So cutting that actually is
like
going to
the
have
filibustering,
so,
but can we get to the
hold on,
point?
Gibbs, shut the fuck up, right? Hold on, it's my.
That wasn't Gibbs, that
I'm
was
literally
me.
explaining.
I know
I'm literally
white people
explaining.
are
Hold on,
saying, but that was
Gibbs,
great.
shut the fuck up. So,
I know Grid and I have the same beard length. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, God damn.
yeah, so it's
He's just. It's a habit from his show. He's always
hold
telling
on,
me.
but like people don't actually know
That's fair.
because we just started talking about this stuff, and
No,
I
no,
had
go
to
ahead.
explain
Yeah,
it.
go ahead, Prime.
Yeah,
I'll let him finish, and then Grid.
And I'm just about done. I'm just about done. So Gibbs can calm the fuck down. But my point is that reducing these costs has knock-on effects, not just for the government work done by these institutions, but by other institutions, small institutions who don't get this amount of grants, but like contract their work out. Like all of this gets reduced, or maybe doesn't even happen if these administrative costs aren't covered, right? So it sounds good at first, right? Saying, oh, we're going to give more money to the research in itself, right? But it has big consequences. So that's what we're talking about. Done.
All right, let's go to Grid here, and then we're gonna go Tyler, then Charlie. No, then Wick, then
Thank God
Charlie.
Amelia
That's
Earhart
what the
finally
order.
landed that fucking plane.
I
Where
appreciate
do I
the
start?
information.
All right. So first, I don't want a doctor, a cancer research doctor, overseeing a budget. That's the most absurd thing
They're
that
not.
anyone could possibly have said.
They're
And
not.
I'm not talking about you, Prime. I'm talking
sorry.
about Charlie, I believe it was talking about how Elon's not a doctor. Well, actually, he is a doctor. He's just not a doctor of medicine. And besides that, he he's an efficiency guy, and that's what we want. We want an efficiency guy finding the efficiency and spending our money wisely, as any proper citizen should. I want my government at its most efficient. I don't like bloat. I don't want wasted dollars for every single stupid cause. Cancer research has been going on since I was 4 years old. That's like 50 fucking years ago. So why can't we just 30 million after the trillions of dollars spent on it? I'm okay with making it more efficient. I'm okay with actually reducing the amount of separate people working on it down to a select few that are actually making progress and not soaking the American taxpayer out of his fucking money. But it's okay. I understand. Sometimes, somebody comes out of left field and hits a home run. So cool. Let's just, but the cancer thing. Come on, Wick.
Hold on.
Come on.
Okay, so first of all,
Let him respond.
trillions.
Then we're gonna go to Tyler. Go ahead, Wick.
Okay, so trillions spent on cancer research. I'll give you some stats here. So it's from 2016
In
to
50 years?
2020. Well, I'm talking globally, right? I'm talking globally. So not just the United States. We're talking globally. It's been 24 billion globally for the last 4 years. So trillions, really? That's just not happening.
Since when?
Second of all, first of all,
Since
first of all,
when?
you're just
No,
fucking wrong.
you-
Second of
no,
all, and
no,
here's the
no,
second reason
I-
you're wrong.
since
There is a reason you
when?
want
Hold on,
someone who
let him
actually
finish.
knows about research, who knows about the field, to oversee something and figure out, is this thing that they are doing actually effective? And the only person who would be able to tell you that is someone who is familiar with cancer research or research in general, or has a degree in the field, which Elon does not. His efficiency shit does, what part of being efficient is having the right amount of money going to the right place. And the only way you know that's the right place is if you have someone who is familiar with the topic. That's why it's very important when he's going through these things that they look through and they have people who are knowledgeable in these fields. Secondly, or thirdly, I should say, right, is that's not how Doge has been doing it. They
Hey,
canceled.
Wick,
They canceled.
I
They
love your
canceled.
Hold on,
a
let him finish.
program
Let him finish.
about
Let him
trans
finish, Red. You let him
on
finish, Red,
on
and then
trans mice because they didn't know the difference between. They thought it was transgender mice. It wasn't. It was another word that started with trans. But their little program, they just typed in trans, and all of a sudden they canceled all those things. It's the reason why they fired a bunch of fucking nuclear.
That's not
The
true.
people in charge of the
You need to
nuclear.
read up
here's
on
what
that.
hold on,
Wick.
just let me reframe
Not
this.
true.
Hold
Program
on.
they're using to
I
find
actually
these programs,
support.
it's
I
just
actually support the
totally
trans mice
crazy.
studies.
Okay, hold on. All right, that's fair. I'm gonna let Grid respond real quick. Two sentence response.
so
But then I'm gonna go to
Wick,
Tyler, and then I want to say something.
Transgenic,
And
thank
then we're
you.
gonna go. Then we're gonna
Wait,
go to Charlie.
can I jump in? Like, okay, actually, yeah, no, let everyone
Wick,
talk.
No,
Wick,
elbow
that's
your way
fine.
in. Don't let him talk.
Okay.
Elbow your way. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine. He's right.
don't worry about
He's
it.
right.
I can
I'll
just
take
keep
order if I have
raising
to.
the
Wick
I
is
don't
absolutely
think
correct.
that Elon Musk is a good businessman. Hasn't the government had to subsidize
24
his
billion
budget like a
since
gazillion
2016.
times?
He's just on paper.
Yeah,
I don't think
he's
Shohei
absurd.
Ohtani is good at
Why are you
baseball.
bringing
Like,
these
I don't think
absurd
he's
things
good at-
into this?
Hold on.
In the past, since 2016 till now, that's the number you want to give me for cancer research
Hey,
alone?
show me where trillions, which you said has been spent on cancer research.
Bro, that was a point he was making beyond the point.
I want to go to Tyler because I
The
want to
point,
reframe this.
the
just a little
point
bit.
being made, Wick, is that when you scoff at the
Grant-
idea of one cancer research program being pulled, as if that's all of cancer research is like a whole field. Like you're acting like there's no cancer research left. Like that's obviously not true. Why are you pitching it to people to like make them panic? Like we're not researching cancer anymore.
Let me just jump in here, guys.
That's all it is.
I'm actually gonna say my thing before I go to Tyler. I don't know if y'all noticed the article I put in there earlier because it seems like we're talking about the cancer research and Temple's kind of alluding to something I would like to talk about a little bit. I posted an article in there just to give a little framing. We talked about it, I think, on Primes a little bit on Monday, but it's basically they found a facility here in San Antonio where I live, which is a left-leaning city, and they were paid 18 mil a month to the tune of over $1 billion since 2001, and they've never used it. And it's like a migrant overflow facility that's never been used. And this now it locally has bipartisan support as like clear waste. And a lot of the people on the right are framing Doge in the efficiency directions. This is something that like we should all be looking forward to, but as opposed to just like I know there's specific things
Sorry,
like
where
cancer
is this?
research. This is San Antonio. I posted it in the group chat that you're in.
Oh, okay,
didn't see it.
gotcha.
I can repost it.
I see it.
Yeah. So basically, locally, it's got bipartisan support for like getting rid of this facility because it seems like wasteful, and there's questions about why this nonprofit is posting record profits. It's kind of weird. But I'm only bringing that up because that seems like a general example of government waste that, in theory, those should be cutting. I know that we're opposed to like the cancer stuff, or are we mad just because of the specific items, or are we mad because Elon Musk overall is running? What's the reasons and all that? I'm gonna let y'all like think about that response. I'm gonna go to Charlie first after we go to Tyler. So let Tyler finish, guys, because he hasn't spoke. Then we'll go to Charlie, and then I'll open it up. And it looks like Prime's gonna stand up. We'll go from there. Go ahead, Tyler, and then Charlie.
Okay, because I am as empathetic as I am wise and correct all the time, I will bestow knowledge upon all of you. Now, Gibbs thinks that I'm a Trump person because what I do is dispel hyperbole with fact. It just so happens right now that the people that are using more hyperbole and more removed from factual reality are the people that lost the election. Tends to be that way. Before it was the GOP, now it's the Democrat. I have no problem with either one. So looking at the stock market, when we were talking about the stock market crashing, and it was just briefly brought up by Charlie, and I doubt she went too much by it, but that's just looking at this day-to-day news cycle and not any historical context. The stock market's been rocky for about 3 years, and if you look, it's back up today. Almost 30% of the losses we saw in that small 3-day dip. So boom, knowledge. Moving into what Wick was saying about he was somewhat gish-galloping, listing off a couple examples. One of them was Ukraine, Trump making us look weak. Going into the context of that, if you look at it, Trump is giving certain concessions to Russia, kind of placating them a little bit.
He cut off all intelligence sharing with Ukraine today. And
all sorts of things like that. Yeah.
For Ukraine to use their own damn weapons.
I understand.
To target enemy soldiers in Russia, he cut off their ability to do that.
Yeah, I understand that he's making certain concessions to Russia, showing we're serious. When the Biden administration, before the war started, there were
Hold on, wait. I know that you're upset. Go ahead.
So we have, So there's a lot of shit that being said. I'm hitting everybody here. So going into Ukraine, when Biden was trying to dispel that before the war started, he went into Ukraine. He stopped selling them lethal weapons. He approved their pipeline that Trump had sanctioned at the time. and give them all sorts of concessions to try to talk them out of war. This is similar to that, where Trump's going in, trying to sue for peace and give them concessions. Say, look, we're actually being a little tough on Ukraine, and we're being a little lighter on you. We're not the last administration. That's perfectly fine for a new administration to do that. And nobody accused Biden of placating Russia when he did these things to sue for peace as well. If you take a step back and look at the historical context, you might disagree with some of the individual actions, but really what he's doing generally is fine.
There's a huge difference between trying to get a country like Russia not to invade, and then once they have invaded, cutting off aid and stabbing your ally in the back, which is what we are doing to Ukraine. Putin has made zero concessions. Putin is getting everything he wants. Everything.
Except
he
for
has
Ukraine.
given us nothing.
Except
we
for
have
Kyiv.
bent over, right? We have unzipped Putin's fly, and now we're gawk 5,000 on his fucking knob, okay? That's what we're doing.
I don't like using
for no reason.
Yo, 2017 called.
Here we go.
2017 called. They want their talking points.
I want.
I'm just gonna hold on. Let's go to Charlie here. I like that one. I saw her nodding her head. Do you agree with the Gok 5,000 on Putin take? Do you
I
agree
do.
with that take?
First of all, as
Okay.
Dumb. Sorry.
Hold on,
as
let her go.
as a
What do you
queer, I don't find that offensive, the Gok 5,000, because that
Thank
is
you for
precisely
passing.
what's happening.
Was it straight? I do.
Because okay, so
No, we don't
oh my
have
God,
something for this.
there's a lot that we covered. Where were we on? Goodness. Okay, on the. Are we moving past the cancer research stuff?
You can go
Oh,
back.
yeah, we can. I mean, I was talking about the government spending in general with the Doge because in relation to that. But yeah, we covered a lot
Oh,
right there. So
well,
just
okay,
pick up where you want
my-
to.
I got a little
Go
cancer
ahead.
stuff, so we can circle back to it if you want to.
I suppose with goodness gracious,
Yeah, just go for where you want to.
Yeah, either
okay,
the
with
yeah.
with the budget, I don't think that we need to run the government like a business, because the point isn't to make profit. And also the idea of like it privatized. If we privatize these things, like it's going to be just as expensive, the bureaucracy. Like again, like I don't see how there's going to be any meaningful change made in government waste or spending. I largely feel that this is I suppose this is a broad stroke, but I do think that this is mostly to cover, more billionaire tax breaks for Musk. And I also think that this is a way for Musk and other billionaires to take over former government entities and privatize them and make big money, like SpaceX and shit. My God, onto Ukraine. I think it's crazy that we are kind of like losing the Cold War 30 years after it ended.
Just right.
I don't know why we are
Hold on.
ceding.
Just
so
write like
much
down.
power.
We'll come back. I really got a lot to go on. Sorry, Charlie. I'll let you go ahead in a second. Just guys, I know we've been a lot of stuff covered. Just write notes, and then if you have objections, we'll come back. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, my God, I might have to go get a pen and fucking paper. I'll be honest with you. Have I followed Ukraine, Russia, extensively? No, but I do know that Ukraine is land that Russia wants. Ukraine also has a lot of natural resources, and we, as a country, the U.S., benefit from Ukraine not belonging to Russia, and also not really ceding any ground to them, because I don't think that. As far as I know, didn't they have like a peace treaty, and didn't Russia violate it again? Like it's just gonna
25
keep
times.
20. Oh,
Now, I'm
freaking
sure Wick is going to elaborate
Christ.
on all that.
25 times.
Every
Okay, thank
25
God.
breaking of ceasefire deals. He broke the Minsk 1. He broke Minsk 2. He's never honored a ceasefire deal. Well, I won't say never, but 25 times he's broken it with Ukraine specifically. It's just it's crazy that we trust him not to break it again. I just don't understand.
I don't understand.
Nothing ever
why we're
changes
trusting-
ever. No
why-
variables change.
Why are we trusting Vladimir Putin? I don't understand. I don't think that Russia is the world power that, we should be ceding power to. I feel like our soft power is just going to, and our hard power is just going to. Anyway, let me go get a fucking pen and paper, because I'm going to need that
Yeah,
to
no
follow
problem. Let's
right now.
while you do that, let's go to
Okay.
example. Then we're going to go to Prime, and then we're going to go to Grid,
So
and then we'll go back. To
I
Prime.
agree in spirit with what Charlie started at the beginning there, as I was writing down. We aren't running the government like a business for profit. Am I unmuted? Yeah. But it does have to be sustainable. And so it's I agree with you. The government's not a business. We're not running it to try to make a profit, but that doesn't mean that we can run it in a way that's unsustainable, because by definition, we can't sustain that. And we're at a point now where we're $30+ trillion in debt. I think everyone would agree we're at least getting closer to the point of unsustainability. I don't know, maybe like in 50 years, we're just like the debt's 150 trillion. Maybe we're not near collapse or anything, but like, I think people know that what is going on right now is not sustainable. And that's more like why it might feel like the same direction is like, oh, we have to treat it like a business. It's not necessarily treating it like a business to pursue like a profit motive, but it is treating it like a business in the sense that like it does need to be sustainable. If this isn't sustainable, we're just going to be continuing down this path that has gotten us this far into debt. So like I agree with you in spirit, but I think at the same time, it doesn't mean that we don't have to account for sustainability in nearly every single government program that we do.
All right, Prime.
I disagree about the government being unsustainable. Even at $37 trillion of debt, it sounds very big to people, so like with our ordinary like human brains, with our normal sized budgets, but it's not, right? Like most of that debt is debt to ourselves. That debt doesn't get called in all at once. It goes to funding things that we actually need. As long as that debt's being put to something useful, then it's fine. But I can go into that in greater detail at some other time. However, our friend Gibbs, though, was telling us about this facility, right? So there's this facility in San Antonio. Now, like you brought it up on Monday, Gibbs, but you didn't send a link at the time. Thank you for saying it now. But actually looking at this thing, right? Okay, so it was an $18 million contract to house like migrant children. And like it was sitting empty, and so Doge comes in and says, "Oh, well, we're cutting it, right?" And this is framed as waste, right? But it's not. It's actually quite simple. First of all, there's no bipartisan support for it to be closed, right? I haven't seen that at all, but maybe you can give me a link to show that. But like what they were doing, really, basically, they were holding capacity for the government. Because in Texas, right, they have a lot of migrants. They don't know when the migrant flows go up or where they go down, right? Currently, they're lower, right? And so this facility wasn't currently being used. But when they needed to scale it up, that's what happened. If you remember previously, right? Like I'm sure Gibbs will know this, right? If you remember previously, we had there were so many migrants coming through, right? We had no place to put them. We're making makeshift shelters. We were putting them under bridges in Texas, right? Just like literally under bridges. The reason why they were holding this facility was when there's a huge migrant inflow and they can scale up immediately. That makes sense. So that's not waste, fraud, and abuse. Once again, I don't trust anything Doge says about actual corroboration. Done.
Thank you. Before we go to Grid, I do want our last panelist finally has arrived. A good friend of mine. We have iCal Rich. He's a state championship winning debate coach here. So I'm excited to have him. Tell us who you are, what you do real quick, and then I don't know if you're caught up to speed, but we'll go.
I'm just a debate coach out of Texas. That's pretty much that's it. That's just what I do. Mostly high school, although like in the last year or two, I've added other age groups, which has been a fun challenge for me. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Yeah. Have you been able to listen? Are you aware? You know where we're at, or do you just you want to just?
No, I just got here. My class literally.
Okay, cool. We're talking about government efficiency of Doge.
We talk about
a little bit
Ukraine
of foreign policy. Yeah, let's do that. Because I think they are directly tied together.
Well, Gibbs, you're going to respond to me at some point.
So, what was your?
You're going to respond to what I said about the bullshit. Claim
yeah. So,
made?
the reason why, I will expound. I was trying to just be moderate, but the reason why I picked this kind of one is because it's a local issue being covered pretty extensively locally, right? And two, I think it'd be fun to go over there and maybe do some investigative reporting and try this out. But I find it interesting here that at the local level, which I live in a very left-leaning city. I live in San Antonio, right? It's one of the most left-leaning cities in Texas. There seems to be pretty broad bipartisan support calling this suspicious government waste because this company, Family Endeavors, it's supposed to be nonprofit.
Proof of that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't ready really to dive into this super in depth, but I can if we would like to at later. But the point I'm bringing is because at least on the local level, when I'm talking about this, it seems interesting to me because it has bipartisan support. They both seem to be saying it's waste. And I'm not saying maybe there's not more to this, Prime. Like, we can look into it and I can get you the info. We can dive into it. But I guess the idea to me is more interesting in this sense of, I personally think that as bloated as the government is, just like I like businesses that get too big, there probably are either corruption or not corruption, just bloat or inefficiencies. And sometimes you just need to go in there and trim the hedges for the good of everybody. And I think a lot of people can get behind that on both sides. However, it seems because Doge is the one doing it, and it's Elon Musk specifically, it seems anything that's potentially found is tainted, right? And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this a little bit, if that makes sense. Is that cool with you, Prime? I know you wanted to.
We can talk about it. Other people want to move to Ukraine.
Yeah.
We can talk about it more later.
No, we could. I want to talk. I want to mention this just real quick, right?
Go
Because
ahead.
I don't mind an audit, and I don't mind trimming the hedges, so to speak. But you are correct that everything Doge is doing is tainted, is because they keep fucking up. They're doing it a bad job. They keep making mistakes. They keep making with their savings wall. They said we found 8 billion of savings, but then they had to correct it to 8 million, right? And that happens over and over again. They keep firing people and then having to rehire them because they fucking did it wrong. Like, if we want to do this, it has to be done at a better level than Doge is doing it. We have a competency crisis in Washington, and Elon Musk and Trump are at the head. Okay, sorry.
Well, so here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do real quick, just to get ordered. I'm going to go to Grid, let him respond. But also in your response, Grid, I know ICAL is going to wants to talk Ukraine and soft power and how Doge is tied to that with the USA. So I'm going to go to you, Grid, and then I'm going to go to ICAL and then to let him get in. Then we'll go to Wick, and then Charlie and Tyler and double week.
Can I just get an addendum before we move on, just very quickly?
Sure.
Right? Just to quickly answer your question and tie on to my friend Wick here. So I agree with everything he just said, but my larger problem is that we actually have a process for dealing with these, with cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, right? We already have that in place. We have inspector generals that usually bring these things to light, or through the news, right? And then we have a Congress that's supposed to debate and pass laws and to cut funding to things that aren't of use to the American people. That's the process. And what is happening now is they're doing an end run around Congress, which they're happy to have, because then they can cut things like Social Security without Congress ever taking a vote and then having to face their people saying, oh yeah, I cut Social Security. It's bullshit. Let's actually go through the proper process. Done.
All right, let's go to Grid, and then we're going to go to ICAL, let him get a word in, and then we'll go to Charlie and Wick. Go ahead. And then Tyler.
Yeah, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Listen, first of all, the amount of absurdity is awesome tonight. I love it. I'm just going to pick one of the massive amount of things you covered in that rambling, nonsensical speech, I guess it was, Charlie. But so Elon Musk owned SpaceX. It was never a government agency. He didn't privatize anything. If anything, the government is happy to have SpaceX doing.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I said that I think that that's a goal.
Yes. Why would he do that?
Money. Power. Why wouldn't he? That's crazy.
Wait, what?
Well, I guess let me just make sure I understand the question.
Literally the richest man in the world can literally do whatever he wants.
Yes.
Just to frame the question. I think that's an interesting question, Grid. Let me ask this real quick. So, I as a conservative, I tend to agree with you. He's the richest man in the world. He probably doesn't need more power. I think he's maybe doing it for hopefully good reasons. Now, to Charlie's point though, if you're that kind of person, you're the richest man in the world, there's never a limit on how much power you're going to want. So, that seems like something that would be a good motivator to them. I think y'all have heard me before, I'm all about that kind of thing, personally. I like the idea of, being a whatever. Now, Grid, how would you object to something like that, though? I know, because that doesn't seem to be your thing.
Did you see him tell Disney to go fuck themselves?
Sure. I mean,
live, literally said,
but what does that have to do with Elon Musk potentially abusing his power?
It shows that he's not purely profit driven and motive driven. He's willing to take the hits for what he believes in. And I think that's pretty clear.
It's
No,
not
but
the
it's just
government.
clear to the point that he's not just like this money-hungry,
He thought he could
power-driven
get
guy. He
more
does
money,
have
more power
principles
by
that he
going
believes in.
against Disney.
Elon Musk has literally
Government
stated that he
entities,
wants to
what?
become the
Doesn't matter
world's.
which way. Look,
He's-
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously you guys aren't the biggest Elon Musk fans. I don't know why you guys think you would have the most
Elon
credibility
Musk
on what he's
literally
like.
says he wants to become
Well, none of us
the first
do.
trillionaire. He wants
The people who watch him do, obviously, have a little more credibility than the people who don't.
Now,
Okay,
and he
Go back
wants
to
a
Grid, let him
trillionaire.
finish. 'Cause
Rick,
let's go back to Grid, let him
I
finish.
gotta
and then
ask
we'll
you,
go.
bro. I gotta ask
Go
you,
ahead.
man, because this happened. You said something that was very enlightening to me. That you actually do think that there's waste in the government and cuts should be made.
Yes.
Where?
Well, I think that we spend far too much on programs like Doge. Doge is something we can cut right away.
Okay, but that's dumb.
The
Let's
white flag has been
Wait,
waved.
I have an
Give me
example.
something- give me something real.
Go ahead,
Healthcare.
Charlie. You got an example.
Hold on.
Healthcare. Do you think
Oh.
there's wastefulness in
Yes,
healthcare?
I think there's waste in the healthcare system. I think there's waste
Okay.
in Social Security.
How would
I
you
think
fix
there's
that?
waste in all these things. The fact that they find some waste isn't surprising to me. It's a
hire
government program. There's
someone
always going to be
to
some
look into
waste.
that?
But my issue with Doge specifically is I don't trust those motherfuckers.
Well, they don't trust
That's
you
it.
either.
They're not making the final
So, hold
decisions,
on.
Wick. They're an advisory
Let's
board
get
that
this
provides data. They give access to data. That's why you can have these 19-year-old kids that run it with
Yeah,
AI, because
blog
all it is
data.
data.
I wanna
All
ask
it
you
is
a
is
question.
data.
Ask
And it's saying,
data.
here, look, money going to the wrong places, money that's not
Bad
even being signed
data.
off. We don't even know where it's going.
I don't trust their data,
Okay,
bro.
okay, hold on.
The point is, you're
Let
like,
me ask you a
oh, they're
question, Wick.
firing people that have to be rehired. It's called closing a
Hold on.
department, and they go to somewhere else because we're restructuring the
Yeah,
government.
and that's
Like,
not how you
how
run
would
a
you
government.
possibly
Hold on,
know
hold on,
what's
hold on,
going
hold on,
on?
hold
You
on,
are
hold
not
on.
there. You are reading in
you're
so
not
much.
there either.
Leftists
Hold on,
do this
hold on.
all the time where they just pretend like they're there. They're in
You're
like
not
the
there
building. They
either.
know what
Hold on,
Doge is
let me
doing.
explain.
You're not
Joe.
there either. You're not there
No,
either.
you're the one
None of
making
us are
claims like,
there.
oh, they're making all these
These
mistakes.
people-
They're doing all this
hold
dumb
on,
stuff.
hold
You
on.
have no idea how the process works because you don't work there.
You
Yeah,
don't
so
know
why are you
either.
pretending that you do?
don't
So
work
why
there.
are you pretending you do? I'm not pretending I
Yes,
do.
you do.
But yeah, you
Okay,
have no
okay.
credibility when you
You're
treat
saying
it like you do.
right.
You're acting
You're
like you know.
doing the same thing.
This
You're
reminds me of my
doing the
family
same-
Christmas.
I like the guy. I like the guy. That guy's
Stop. Okay, everybody's good. Sorry, guys. I like no hard feelings, but I want to reframe this because I wanted to ask something, and then y'all just took off the races. God damn it! But it was good. Hey, let me. All right.
Sorry for
So
calling you
wait.
bitch. It's just a.
No,
I hang out with
he's
a
not
lot of
gonna do
gays.
that.
So I
apologize
bitch
for that.
and girl kind
No,
of
well, he's
fly
not
in
getting-
a
we don't
neutral
got
way.
here.
Do it
We
more,
don't got this.
louder.
We don't got- Yeah,
Use the
Wick's
hard-
right.
No
Wick
hard
going by
feelings
again.
from me.
Yeah,
No hard
he's not gonna be
feelings.
scared.
I'm very no. I'm very clear.
He's really into
No.
the abuse. You know what I'm saying? He's an abuse guy.
It
No,
is very
Wick.
nice.
Wick, I want to.
Wick?
Before we got
I'm here
lost,
for the clips. I'm here for the clips.
before we got lost, let me ask you a question, right? So you say it's because you don't trust them.
Yes.
All right. Just to frame this, like, how do you argue that to, like, say someone like me, right? I have sat here for the last like 16 to 20 years going, I don't trust what the fuck's going on. It's about time we got somebody else in here. What do you argue? Like, how do you like frame that to them as opposed to like, okay, cool, now you know how we felt. Like,
Not
you
trusting,
understand? Like,
yeah, I get you. Not trusting the government is always wise, right? Like, but
Amen.
never trusting the government is also foolish. And when you see an entity, right, come in and they keep messing up, and they've only existed for like what, 30 days, 60 days, and they keep making mistake after mistake, and then they purposefully and with intent misrepresent the data that they're gathering to you, which Elon has done multiple
Ooh,
times.
now you're assigning intent. So this is what I mean by saying you guys pretend like you work there, like you know these people. Well, you have no credibility to say shit like that. It's insane. It's so discrediting. This is why your party's lost so much in the last 8
Elon
years.
and those who work within Doge, and I use that information and I make it
Right.
Yep.
You might as well be there, bro. You might as well be there, dog.
Here's what we're gonna.
Here's the
what
thing.
we're
My
gonna
friend
do.
Wick works there.
Hold on. I'm gonna let Wick. Hold on. I'm gonna let Wick finish.
Let me finish answering you, right? So someone like Gibbs, who doesn't trust the government, thinks there's plenty of waste. I'm with you. I think that too. I think we need a better process in place, absolutely. But we have that process. We just haven't been following it. And much like Prime said, Prime Kai was very wise when he said this. We have in the Constitution, right? Checks and balances, assignment of powers. The Congress has the power of the purse. And if we find
Official acts.
if we find different programs that we think are fraud, waste, abuse, whatever, Congress is the one that should be taking away those fundings. That's the process we're doing.
Okay, here's
Those
what
All
are
right, so
the
what happens when Congress is getting
Hold on, I know
kickbacks
you
from
were
it? What happens when congressmen are worth hundreds of millions of dollars as a result of this
different
funding?
congressmen.
Hold on.
Yeah, wow, yeah, great answer.
Rebel,
Great
rebel,
answer.
Rebel.
Hold on, everybody calm down. I'm gonna let y'all rant. Here's what's gonna happen.
have to
I'm gonna
ask
go to
Whit.
Charlie. Hold on 1 second. Write it down. I'm gonna go to Charlie. She's gonna talk. Then we're gonna go to Tyler because he hasn't talked in like 30 minutes. And then before anybody says anything else, nobody else says anything. Let her talk to her end. Then let Tyler talk to the end. And then we're gonna let Iko say whatever because he hasn't said anything yet. And I want to hear his opinion. And then we'll turn it loose again. All right, go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, so just 2 quick points. Pentuples, you were talking about, government debt. And I agree, it's not great that we have a lot of federal debt. However, I don't think that, cutting taxes for billionaires is a great way of resolving that debt. I think that we would actually be able to do quite a bit if Trump hadn't, in resolving that debt, if Trump hadn't cut taxes to billionaires. 2, if we want to talk about government waste, 2 prime examples, I think, is excessive funding to the military to the point that I believe sometimes they have to fly their jets just to spend their fuel money.
That's a legal requirement.
All right. Well, I think that the military, it's bloated. It's bloated. Okay. I know people,
I would say
many
they're
people in the
underfunded.
military, and a lot of the time, a lot of our
there's no mutually
soldiers are.
exclusive.
Prove your case that the military's bloated.
Well, hold on, Grip. Is that mutually exclusive though? That I'm pro funding more for the military, but I also think it's bloated. I think that there needs to be someone to go in there and clean out the fat.
Can
Like,
I
they're
ask
gonna search
Charlie-
for
Wait,
Okay.
second point.
But yeah, go
Raise
ahead,
your hand
Charlie.
if
Go
you've
ahead.
served in the
Let Charlie
military, first
finish.
Health
Yeah, well, sure,
insurance
okay, that's a good
subsidies are extremely expensive. Health insurance
Let's,
subsidies are extremely expensive. Universal single payer healthcare would actually be less expensive. So, but Elon's not talking about that. He's not going after health insurance companies
Hold on,
and
Doug.
working towards anything like that. So he's going after shit like cancer research.
Jesus.
Okay,
And,
I'm gonna go to Tyler.
Food
Oh,
for
sorry,
starving
sorry.
children.
Yep. Okay,
So
so
I'm gonna go to Tyler, then I count, and then Temple. You can rage for a moment, and then we'll go to the rest of the people. Wait,
Just make-
Prime, then wait.
just making sure my voice box still works after all that fucking waiting. So I'm looking over these arguments. I have no
You're good at
comment.
note taking, so I have faith in you. All right.
Yeah, I gotcha. So looking over there, I have no comment on Elon trying to read Elon's mind like you guys are doing. That's a little silly of an argument to me. When you guys started screaming, it reminded me of my family Christmas, and it's kind of coincidental because we have 2 Santas in here right now with us. So going into what Gibbs was asking about Doge, a lot of what we're arguing about is the mandatory spending. When Doge already right now is only going to discretionary spending, they are currently inside the Defense Department looking at the military right now. So all this spending that they are able to look at in terms of what you guys are talking about, they're currently doing. So that's, in a way, a good thing. Now, what we see with Doge is Doge and the president's administration are doing a lot of things like freezing things and whatnot. They're moving a lot faster than administrations generally have. They hit the ground running. They got their people right into place. They started doing all their changes to the administration day one, where sometimes these things take months to roll out. So what we're seeing is a lot, but we're also seeing a lot of mistakes, and we're also seeing a lot of challenges. Some of these challenges that are being presented are the same things that Biden had to go through when he was trying to implement his people. Not nearly as many per capita, but again, they're not moving as fast, so they're not going to make as many errors. Looking at the USAID ruling from Judge Ali, what that said about Doge is it wasn't making an error in terms of what they were doing at USAID. What they were doing is making an error in terms of their sweeping cutting of the entire department. They had to go case by case. So a bunch of people that didn't know anything about law were screaming that we had a constitutional crisis incorrectly, when in reality, all they were doing was adhering to the judge's order to go case by case, and they continued cutting from USAID. The judge said, "What the hell? I expected you to reinstitute it." And they said, "No, we just stopped doing this sweeping thing you said we weren't allowed to do." That's when the Supreme Court stepped in and said, "You have to fund projects we've already done and just pay for everything we've already done." And that's the end of it. So they were technically right.
All right, I count.
Okay, so let me just
Go ahead. Nobody interrupt ICAL, all right? Let him get his thing in.
Yeah,
there,
just 4 things I need to respond to, but I guess I can only respond to 3 now because one of them got taken care of there, which was the SCOTUS thing, which I wanted to remind everybody of that just happened, which I think is a big deal. But the first thing is the Family Endeavors overflow facility. I agree with what Prime said about we have to have it ready for when we do need it. But the other thing is, if you want to compare that in terms of expense, $18 million a month is what we were paying for that facility, it had 3,000 beds, enough to house 3,000 people. That's a total cost of $6,000 per bed per month. Okay. Guantanamo Bay has only 120 beds, and we pay $45 million a month to maintain that for those 120 beds. So instead of $6,000 per bed, we're paying $375,000 per bed. Okay, so over $1 million for just 3 beds every month that we pay for that facility. So we're talking about 20 times the expense of this family endeavors thing. And we've been trying to shut down. They've been trying. This is waste, fraud, and abuse that's happening despite 2 presidents now trying to shut it down, but Congress wouldn't let it happen because they feel like we need to keep wasting this money and virtually getting nothing out of it. Okay, that's number one. Number two is one of the things that Doge just did was basically without Congress being involved, essentially repeal the PACT Act. So all that stuff that we did for veterans that got passed is statutory. Doge just cut it as if that was a line item that the executive branch could do. And Doge isn't even the executive branch. It's just some dudes that were picked by Elon who wasn't elected. But 80,000 jobs at the VA were just cut as part of that. That's a horrifying thing. If you know and care about veterans, to have that facility taken away from them without any statutory oversight at all. I mean,
I have never talked to a veteran who likes the VA in my life.
Hold on. Hold on, because I can't finish. I know I'm finish.
The PACT Act was incredibly important. I used to work for the VA. My stepfather's a veteran. My grandfather's a veteran. My
well, guess what? Most veterans hate the VA.
Yeah, I know they fucking hate the VA. I don't like the VA.
Why? Why do you think that is?
Yes. We have a veteran on the panel. We have a veteran on the panel we can go to.
Veterans hate the fact that resources at the VA are being kept from them. So taking those resources away from the VA without replacing them with is the big problem here. It's sort of like saying, I can't believe you're underpaying me, so go ahead and cut my salary in half, and that solves everything. Like, no, that's ridiculous.
No, it's more like, hey, we're going to get you into a new department. You're going to be working over across the aisle now. You're going to have a brand new job and new pay.
If you want to cut something that's in the military, how about the fact that we produce all these tanks? People talk about us giving tanks to Ukraine. They're tanks that we've sat on for decades, and then we're finally about to get scrapped, and so we give them to Ukraine. But we're continually making new tanks that the Pentagon keeps saying that it doesn't need for its own usage. They've been complaining about it for decades, actually, and we don't use them because it's not the way that the United States fights warfare. We'd be better off just giving it away to a country that needs it. I have a country in mind for that, but I guess we'll talk about that later. But yeah, there are ways in which we're wasting that money continuously, and we can look at those things, right? But yeah, taking resources away from veterans is not the way to do it.
He meant All right, thank you so much. I want to go to Wick since he's a VA guy. Then we're gonna go to Pit Temple since I know he's got a bunch of objections, and then we'll go to Prime, and then we'll open it up to everybody.
I'm listening, but I gotta step away for a minute.
Yeah, the first thing on the VA, yes, the amount of red tape, bureaucracy, and the difficulty to actually get seen and actually get good care. That's the problem with the VA, right? What we need for the VA is better administrators. We have shit administrators, and we have shit allocation of resources. It's just bad. You're right. I hate the VA. I don't like the VA. But it's not because of the solution to that, I should say, is not to take away its funding. It's simply to make it better, right? Well, to make it more like private healthcare. But here's also what I wanted to say, and this is breaking news, okay? Breaking news that I just found out. Trump is reportedly lifting sanctions on Russia.
Interesting.
What the fuck, gang? Trump's surrender to Putin proceeds apace. Okay, this is reportedly. Okay, this is reportedly by Reuters and the Kiev Independent. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. Damn. What are we doing? Why are we surrendering? In the war between Russia and Ukraine,
we're not surrendering. We're not at war with Russia.
I mean,
I wanna
proxy
go-
war. We're in a proxy
I
war.
wanna
I just wanted to challenge the progressives on the panel. Why are you guys so resistant to change in the VA the way it works? We know how horrible it is. Why have the progressives become so resistant to change? I thought you guys were all about making change in the future and the way, like, it's good for the next 100 years. It's going to be this way.
I worked for the VA. I worked for the VA in a disability clinic. The issue with the VA is that there's so few clinics and so few medical staff. People will wait months and months and months to be. No, dude, it's literally a lack of. People would drive an hour to our fucking clinic to be seen by our doctors. There's a lack of, available at least I worked for a disability clinic, like disability testing clinics. There's a lack of like medical professionals. We literally had to like dig our claws into our fucking doctors and be like, please do not quit. Please, we need you. These people fucking need you. Like it's fucking desperate, dude. It's like there's not enough. It's bad. And the PACT Act was huge for so many fucking veterans. Like the way it expanded like how, what was considered a disability. It got a lot of people who did my God, what is it called? Tire fires, pit burnings, like the Desert Storm. There's a specific term for
pits,
the burn pits
and things like that.
Yeah, which my stepfather, that is now a part of his veterans disability stuff, is because he was around the fucking burn pits and his lungs don't fucking work anymore. That's cutting the PACT Act is fucking brutal, and I also think it's very stupid, in my opinion, to make a population that is already fairly disenfranchised, has a lot of mental health issues, and is combat trained. I think fucking them over is like a bad move, in my opinion. Not the people that I would fuck over.
Do you think that most vets see this as a bad thing?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
So
the vets in my chat are going, "Fuck yeah, dude."
With the what? The
they want less. They want less disability clinics. They want less access.
Literally, I'll read you some. You want me to read you some?
They're not getting rid of admin. They're not getting rid of admin.
Hold on. I want to ask one thing. Maybe just framing. I posted an article now and in the thing, and it's talking about like a VA sex scandal, which looks like some government funds went to. Like when I see stuff like this, personally, I see waste. Are y'all arguing that the VA can't be made more efficient? On the left, is that what y'all are arguing? Like, what are y'all's solution?
I'll like as kind of goes with what I was going to say. So, like,
sure, Brian, go ahead.
Was it Penn Temple? Sorry, I keep forgetting your name. I apologize. But he was saying, hey, like you progressives, right? Like you are all about change, you're all about reform. Why are you so resistant here, right? So I personally not. I don't have any loyalty to the VA. Right. It's a government agency. I hear mixed things about it. I hear that the actual healthcare, when the veterans can get the healthcare, is actually top class. Right. But the problem is that it's so hard to get the healthcare.
Waiting lists and stuff.
So now, yeah. So if you wanted to, if Penn Temple, maybe your plan, right? Maybe what you'd like to do is to close the VA altogether, right? Maybe reform it into some new agency that has a similar mission. I'd be for that. But I haven't heard that plan, right? Have you seen that plan? Maybe I've missed it, right? And you can
no, but you just identified that the plan could exist.
I identified that a plan. Yes, there could be concept of a plan,
and that plan would be better.
Hold on. But yes, but we don't have.
You just said it. So what's the question? I have to come up with it myself to make the point.
Shut for a second, and then you can understand. Because you asked the question, can I answer the question, right? My problem is.
Yeah, but you just lecture with no credibility. I don't get it.
Penn Temple, shut up for a second. Just. Okay, so my problem is that there is no there's no presented plan, right? If Trump had that plan, right, and let's say Trump is brilliant and it'd be a good plan, well then I can examine that and I can see if I support that. Are you going to make things better for our veterans? Okay, but if you're just cutting it, right, and not actually doing the reforms, if you're just cutting it, that'll simply make what is a bad or poor agency worse, and I don't want that for our veterans. Done.
Sure, yeah, I agree. We definitely have to, like, we can't just eliminate it and not do anything else. It's gonna come with like adjusting the way that the system works for the military and the veterans. Like, I'm 100%. But like you just said, we that plan the concept exists. So like
Does it?
I don't
Yeah,
have it.
where
I'm
is
not
it?
going to be the one who makes it. I'm just saying that's the pursuit that we should
hold
go.
on.
That's
Yeah,
how
but-
this
but-
works.
But
I
are
don't.
you sure? But
Every
you're
conversation is
operating-
like this. None of
you're
us are writing the
operating
legislation for the
you're
things we
operating
argue.
on the thought that there is another plan, right? But
Yeah.
again, we don't have that plan. We don't know if there
No, but
is
you
a plan.
agreed that there is obviously a plan that could be better than what we have right
There
now,
could
which
be,
is what
but there
drives the
isn't a
pursuit of
plan.
trying
That's what I'm
to
saying.
bring
Yes,
reform. Yeah.
hypothetically, we could have a better.
But you're
we could
saying
have-
I'm
we
dying.
could
You're
do
saying I'm
anything
dying
better.
on this hill until you have something I know is way better. But it's like that's
No,
that like
hold on,
okay,
hold on. I'm
like,
asking for
okay.
something very simple. I'm asking you, hey, like let's
Right.
actually have the
And
plan. Let's
I'm
examine
not
that
going to be
plan,
the one who
and
makes
then
that
let's make
ever.
the cut.
I'm never
Okay,
going to
so
be the one who
we
writes
have-
the reform for
at
VA.
this moment. So you're
Before you
asking-
burn your
you
house
asked
down,
us
it's helpful
why
to
we
have
didn't-
a house
why
that
we
you're going to
didn't-
move back
you
into.
asked-
I agree. I
You asked us
agree.
why we didn't
I
support
agree.
it.
Can I
This is
actually,
why,
about
because
the
there is no
story that
plan.
was
Give us
shared?
the plan
go ahead.
first.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, about the story that was shared. Go ahead.
So actually, the reason that I quit my job at the VA was that one of the physician's assistants that we were desperately keeping our hooks in started hitting on me in through our team chats and would not leave me alone. And I knew that if I brought this to HR, I would be the one let go because we did not have the resources necessary to hire
Wait, is
more
this like
medical
are you
professionals.
wait just to ask, like, because now
Uh-huh.
I'm curious. Like, are you saying this is like actually like a predominant like culture issue, like, or is it because of like resources?
Well, what I'm saying is that when something like the VA is extremely underfunded and you need to keep your claws in specific people so that veterans can get the care that they need, like I left because I knew that person that they could not fucking replace him, but they could replace me. So I think you're going to get weird sex crazy things happening because you're putting people in positions of power that they could abuse. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely absurd.
Well, yeah, Admiral, please explain that to the rest of us. Translate.
Yeah, how did that make sense, brother? Make it make sense.
Okay, so like, all right, I guess I'll maybe try to translate to like conservative counterparts. The argument would be, say you're like, say I owned a restaurant and I had employees that they were shitty, but I was in a small area with not very many people I could hire, so I would have to retain shitty employees. And if someone complained, they'd be the one let go because I can't afford to lose the other ones because I don't have the funding or the resources to get the replacements. Is that a fair paraphrasing, Charlie? Or
Thank you. Yes, that's correct.
Analogy.
So if you further
that
underfund it, you're going to get even more fucking weird orgies or weirder things happening because you are putting people in positions where they are like fucking invaluable, dude.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, Charlie. I
That's
don't know,
illegal.
right? But it's a weird argument to make.
sure,
like,
but legal
if
things
we
happen all
take
the time.
away
Well,
money
you just
from the
posted a
Veterans
sex crazed
Association,
orgy
they're gonna
shit
have
bullshit.
orgies
I'm
there.
sorry. I just thought that
And,
was funny as fuck.
I'm going to tell you that if that happened, all the vets I know.
So
would
the
vote for
audience
it.
understands. Yeah, someone else posted a link in our group chat talking about a sex created orgy thing in the
I also
VA.
posted the
So,
share
so
chat.
everyone
Yeah,
might be
my
confused about
apologies.
that.
My apologies. And it was like fucking organized through their team chats.
I could post it in your.
Can we move off
chat
of the
as well.
absurdity and back into the debate portion?
Sure,
please?
go ahead.
Yeah,
Greg.
I'm kinda
Reframe this how
bored.
you
No, I had
want.
to respond to
Go ahead,
the
Greg.
VA thing.
Actually, Pentuple guy has been waiting, and I
Yeah,
keep
go ahead,
talking.
Pentuple. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Pentuple. You can go, and then.
God,
yeah,
does Pentuple have anything interesting to say?
Well, I was gonna ask. It's.
Oh, damn.
I have something if we need it, but I'll pass. I don't want to. It's whatever. It was
Well,
just
I
a
got
thing to
lots of
do.
things.
No, okay,
Wasn't
great.
that
We
hard
can
to
move on.
follow? I'm sorry. My bad.
No.
I don't think it was that hard to
wasn't
follow. I just didn't. I don't know. Maybe the relevance like connection, but I'm not trying to be like. I'm not trying.
No,
It's fine. I'm retarded.
Yeah.
We should let Tyler go. Probably. This is like not that interesting.
I don't know shit about the VA. I've been sitting
Lots of
out
things
this
to talk about. Don't
I
worry.
understand.
Go ahead. So
I understand
Greg,
what Charlie
did you
said,
wanna say
though.
something?
Just to be clear, like I get what she's trying to say, right? Is that
Me too. I totally got it too.
If we're talking about government waste,
yeah,
there's sex
fuck it.
orgies at the
Move it
VA.
on.
I'm telling you that if the government waste is sex orgies at the fucking VA, I'm telling you that cutting more funding is going to lead to more sex orgies. If that is a serious argument that someone was
We got
making, I'm
perverse
just
incentive
responding in
here.
kind.
I'm about
Thank
to
you.
change
I'm
my position.
responding.
Is that a
in kind.
promise? Is that a promise?
Yeah.
Cut the funding.
No.
Okay,
Moving
let's
on.
talk about
Wait,
Ukraine.
go
How
ahead.
about that? Let's talk
Let's
about
talk about
Ukraine.
Ukraine. Let's talk about Ukraine.
Ukraine.
And Trump's response to Ukraine. Go ahead, wait.
Okay,
Thank you.
so here's my issue with Ukraine, right? And I have a question for the other side, right? So, Pentuple, we'll start with you since you. Well, first of all, just as a gut check, Pentuple, do you think that the U.S. should continue to support Ukraine?
Right now, yes.
Yes. Okay. Then we're fine. Maybe I don't have a question for you. What about you, Grid?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I was reading my chat.
Do you think that the U.S. should continue to support Ukraine in its war against Russia?
That's a good question. See arguments both ways.
You're asking us like we're going to assume that can never change, though. I think that's the difference between us is that to us that can change, and to you that can never change for some reason.
Today, I'm talking about today. I understand because there would.
Yeah, I don't think we should abandon Ukraine today. I don't think we should abandon Ukraine today. No.
So fuck that guy. Fuck his whole country.
I do think we have to wrap it up, and we have to force their hands to stop the meat grinder of bodies fucking dying. That's our interest.
Grid said something I want to hear.
Go ahead, Grid. Yeah, let Grid give response.
Can you repeat what you just said?
I said, as long as Zelensky is going to be a dick and enable the meat grinder, then fuck that guy and just, I don't want to have anything to do with, I don't want to be involved with someone like that. Why do we want to be involved with somebody that sends his own people into a meat grinder instead of coming to the peace table like an actual human fucking being?
So, do you think Zelensky does not want peace in Ukraine?
I have no idea what the fuck Zelensky wants. Can you tell me?
Sure, he wants peace in the Ukraine. He wants the war to end. He wants Russia out.
Really? You believe that after the way he treated Trump in the Oval Office?
Right.
Trying to slide in the slide deal with him.
Come on, buddy.
He didn't try to slide in a slide deal. What he did was he simply talked and he asked JD Vance.
Yeah, you think, dude, Zelensky knew what he was doing. He was trying to gain leverage with the president against the
Putin's invasion. Because remember, Russia is invading, right? If Russia stopped fighting, the war would end. If Ukraine stopped fighting, Ukraine would cease to exist. Because Russia would
they're being invaded right now. I feel like that's common knowledge, is it not?
You would think, but unfortunately, I have to ask this question because there's a few people who don't think that's the case.
I don't think anybody on this panel is going to
extending the war for whatever reason in order to, I don't know, send people into a meat grinder. What's happening is Russia is sending wave after wave of troops. It has drained its prisons, right? It has conscripted people from North fucking Korea and is sending everything they can to try to break Ukrainian lines. Ukraine relies on outside funding for weapons, ammo, material. They are not asking for troops. They're asking for guns and bullets at this point, right?
Hey, weren't they getting troops from Britain? From the UK? I just saw a headline. I'm sorry. I don't know what it was. I don't know what that was.
No, that's a peacekeeping thing.
Sorry.
What are you talking about? Hold on. You're talking about like Britain sending peacekeeping troops. I believe, and hopefully I'm not incorrect here. I believe that's after we have a peace.
War?
No, hold on. Listen. Obviously, you're just reacting. This is after a peace deal has been reached, right? So if you get a security agreement, right, they'll come there to ensure the peace afterwards. So don't react immediately.
Let's go to
also, there are American troops that are training on people how to use the weapon systems that we've given them and things like that are going to get pulled out. And so the UK is saying they'll send people in to replace those troops to just do what American troops have already been doing. So that's not the same as fighting at the front lines or even replacing people who are defending Kyiv or anything like that. Although I do think that may happen in the future. I think France is most likely to do that if that's going to happen. It wouldn't be them going to the front line. It would be them sitting in Ukraine, which frees up some Ukrainian troops to go to the front line, stuff like that.
Okay, so I have a question for all of the leftists who believes that Zelensky wants peace. If he wanted peace, why didn't he agree to the ceasefire? Why did he piss all over it?
He did. He agreed to it.
Hold on. He was going to sign that agreement, and it's not a ceasefire.
Hold on, one second.
Hold on, let me explain.
No, it's money. Thank you, Skiztech, for the 100 gifted subs. I appreciate it. You're the best. I love you.
That's badass.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, but when Zelensky went to the White House, he was going to sign a mineral deal. A ceasefire was not part of that deal. Let's be clear.
How do you know?
It was not part of that deal because they would have reported that it was. What all that deal did was guarantee that America gets 50% of their minerals and that they would continue to talk, right? Because you need to have a ceasefire. Russia needs to agree to it, and Russia hadn't even agreed to anything at that point in time.
Russia was
So
offering a ceasefire.
what
weren't
Zelensky did was he was
Were they
willing
not?
to sign the mineral
asking a
deal.
question.
Trump
I
kicked him out. He was willing to sign that day. Trump
I
kicked him out.
appreciate the rhetoric.
Zelensky
I
has
really
never
do. I heard you
refused to
last
sign the
night.
deal.
Good.
Trump
Okay.
was the one
Okay.
who
I've
cut
heard
that
this
off.
rhetoric. I've got it. I understand. Can you tell me why he didn't take the ceasefire? Putin was willing to at least discuss it. Zelensky said, they won't honor it, so I don't want it.
Let me jump in here. He
No,
did
no,
go ahead,
no,
Tyler.
you guys are
Go ahead.
conflating
I'm
three
sorry, go
different
ahead.
agreements.
Let's go to Tyler, then
Three-
I go to Tyler.
Yeah, let me
Yeah,
jump in here
there's-
because I've been watching this transpire for the last couple of days. Yesterday, Zelensky flat out said that he is willing to come to the terms of a ceasefire. This is the first time the Ukrainian government has actually agreed to a temporary ceasefire deal in order to move forward. So they were never being asked this. This was never part of the original deal. And you asked how we know that the deal was leaked to Bloomberg reporters. We have an article that was out almost a week ago. I read the whole thing. It told you point by point what was in it. And Wick is correct. That was not part of it.
And it's also three different agreements. Okay, there are three things that potentially could be signed. He came to sign the first one, which is the preliminary framework agreement, which was not itself the minerals deal. It was the framework in order to get to a minerals deal. That's what he was there to sign. And the second agreement would have been the minerals deal itself. And the third agreement would have been the ceasefire deal. He came to sign number one, not numbers 2 and 3. And he wasn't able to sign the first one when he got there. So they weren't able to even get close to the securities guarantee, which is the sticking point for number 2. But for number 1, he was ready to sign that day.
Okay.
That's it.
Tyler,
I'll
you
grant
objecting to that?
But why
don't
did he
conflate those two
then
things.
create this?
What a
scheme?
beautiful end.
He just disagrees with the process. He doesn't want 3 stages to the deal. He wants 1 and 2 to be rolled together because he thinks that if he signs 1, he's going to lose leverage on number 2. And he's been pretty open about that.
Shouldn't have been discussed behind closed doors and not in front of the press.
It was.
Absolutely. And that's what Zelensky said when he went on Brett Baer that night. Like, I don't care what Trump said. The points that J.D. Vance and Trump are bringing up are completely legitimate. We just shouldn't do it in front of camera. But what really pissed off Wick earlier, though, wasn't that, like, everyone's got a bit of a more nuanced take than they're giving credit for here once we start to dig into it. What we're talking about more is not that we want to cut funding. It was more framed at Trump's actions right now with Russia are either A, placating him, and you're basically saying he's blowing Trump, or Trump's blowing Putin. I say it's completely normal for a new administration to come in and say, we're going to roll back the concessions of the previous administration to sue for peace. And you might disagree with what some of those are, but like, you're talking about tariffs hurting the economy. That Russian oil sanction's doing more than any fucking tariff to hurt our economy. If we drop that Russian oil sanction,
I looked that up, and it just says he's considering them. He hasn't actually done it yet. He's just said, I'm thinking about it. Maybe it'll happen. I don't know.
if you're worried about the economy, though, because of tariffs, that Russian oil sanction will alleviate all those concerns and more.
You mean
Based.
getting rid of it?
Getting rid of it,
those
let
crypto
it go back into the national
I
economy.
want my Bitcoin.
Let me ask this, because it seems like to me that Trump has been very interested in like restructuring the current I don't know, international order. I, for one, am not a huge fan of international rules-based order. I know that me and Ike have talked about that quite a bit. Are like on the left, do y'all have big objections to the idea that alliances can change if stuff shifts? I know we kind of touched on this with the Ukraine idea, because I know Temple brought forward the point that, hey, some people on the right are open to new alliances. Would you not consider maybe an alliance with Russia against China or something, or some other foreign affairs? I'm just hypotheticals, you know.
Putin
Are
could
you
never
totally
be.
opposed to
Oh,
change?
no.
Okay.
But okay,
Absolutely. I feel like it's
Good. These are the people that you're going to run in 2028. We can never have world peace. Hell no. Fuck no. Over my dead body,
Not
world
all
peace.
Putin
the
exists.
thing is, that if you want, like,
Is Putin worse than Kim Jong Un?
Hold on,
Can I get an
I
answer
would-
from
I
that
would-
from the left?
Yes.
they're probably, I don't know,
Yes.
probably
worse than who?
both
Worse.
shitty people.
Who is
I don't
Kim
know.
Jong Un?
Bro, are you serious? Bro, I had Russian roommates in college. I've never had a North Korean roommate.
Yeah,
You're
I don't know.
insane, dude. You've been you've Putin like it's in your brain, like
Who is
fucking your
North
brain
Korea
up.
invading Crimea?
Let's go to
This is
we're
not
gonna
what
go
I'm
to
dying
Ukraine.
on.
Dude, would you
Hold on,
ever want to live in North
Well,
Korea?
North Korea's a. I don't know
Russia
why you're
is
bringing
not a
up-
place I'd want to live. It is
Hold on,
not North
I don't-
Korea.
Dude,
Hold on,
I
hold on,
don't
hold on.
know why you're
That's
bringing up
huge.
North
That's
Korea.
Kim Jong Un
I feel like
too.
that's
Wait a
kind of
minute,
random.
Because you're treating Putin worse than we
I can
treat
try to
Kim
answer your
Jong
question.
fucking
Yeah,
Un.
So I can try to
I
answer
mean,
You
your
guys have this
question.
like
think
special
that-
standard for him because you're war hungry.
So hold
Okay,
on.
we're not
Hold on, let's
handing
go- Kim Jong-un is the
South
best
Korea
friend.
over to North Korea. We're
Hold
not
on,
saying
yeah.
dude,
Well, okay.
just fucking
Yeah,
have
but
it.
we don't
Actually,
have
we
to-
send
I can
troops
answer
to
your question,
South
right?
So
Korea.
you bring Charlie brings
I
up a
don't-
good point here
what
with
do you
South
mean?
Korea, right? You bring up a good point
What
with
are you
South Korea. I
talking
look at
about?
So, well, hold on. Let's actually come back to something you just said here. So, we support South Korea. North Korea's not. However, Trump brought this up, and I looked it up, and apparently they do have 4 times the tariffs that we have. This is supposed to be one of our strongest allies. We built this country. We pretty much maintained their sovereignty, and their tariffs are 4 times higher than anything we got on them. It seems a little bit like a fuck you.
Which country is this?
To
I'm
people
sorry?
on the right. This is South Korea. What?
Okay.
Do y'all have like objections to alliances changing? Now, I'm not saying that we go in line with
Reciprocal
North
tariffs,
Korea,
baby.
but
Reciprocal tariffs.
So
yeah, but like reciprocal tariffs, like alliances changing. Do y'all have issues with these as concepts? Go ahead. We'll go to Prime and Charlie, and then we'll open it up from there.
yeah, I don't. I'm not going to die on the hill that like Putin is worse than Kim Jong Un. I think that's silly, right? Like whatever. We can like have a tier list of dictators, right? And put them
Yeah,
wherever
I
we
mean,
want, right?
That's
whatever.
why I didn't want to talk about that shit.
Yeah,
That was
it's
dumb.
yeah,
I
like
did
let's move past that. But in terms of shifting on, you and I, we already know that we have a different opinions on the international rules-based order. I think that it's something that needs to be expanded and strengthened on. But on the other hand, like I'm with you, that alliances can change, right? We can do that. We have a shifting world, allegiances and circumstances change, and that's actually fine. I want to know, like, what are we getting? So you said, like, allied with the U.S. and Russia against China, right? Was that
I'm just
actually?
throwing out a random
I
hypothetical,
know.
like maybe
Yeah.
50 years from now, based on whatever.
I hear you. And that is fine, in fact, right? Like there was that at some point in time, people were talking about like bringing Russia into NATO, right? Like I don't know, it sounds crazy, right? But like
Sure.
these are crazy things that happen, right? But like time changes, and so I'm okay with. I want us to improve our terms of Russia, right? I don't want end this war. I want us to continue like inundating them with blue jeans and McDonald's. That's the path forward. However, I don't know if what Trump is doing actually equals that. And I'm saying I actually don't know. I'm not actually making a judgment here, right? Because all I'm seeing is that us, like, it feels like a unilateral surrender at this point, right? Before we've actually gotten anything solid. Now, maybe at the end of this, right, we come back in a year, maybe like Trump's plan actually worked out really well, and we've gotten to a great status quo between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. But right now, it seems like what we're doing is undermining our ally, Ukraine, for no particular reason other for the like strict benefit of Russia. And if that's what's happening, I'm not for that.
Charlie.
I mean, yeah, I agree completely. And I don't know if peace is an answer. You have to think about sheer amount of people that have died in the proxy wars between the US and Russia. Like specifically in the Middle East and in like Southeast Asia, in Latin America. I don't think that peace is an option at this point. I think it's mostly harm reduction. And again, I'm going to agree with Prime Case here. I don't see how this is a path to peace. It more comes off as like, I don't know.
Surrender.
Trump
It comes off as
conceding to
surrender.
Putin.
Just say
It's surrender. We're losing the Cold
Yeah.
War. 30 years after
Hold
it's
on, before
over.
you- before
Like,
I-
what is
before I
going
go
on?
War?
Hold on, guys.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let it
After
finish.
30
Let it
years
finish. We're
after
gonna go
it's
Wick, and then y'all
over.
are gonna go.
No, that was it. It was a joke,
Okay.
by
No,
the
I-
way. I know the war
okay.
is over. That's a joke.
He was worried. He was worried. Wick, go ahead, Wick. I know
Okay,
you got objections. Then we'll turn to the right.
Here's the thing. Like, I want peace in Ukraine. I want peace in Ukraine. And if I thought for a minute that Putin would honor a peace agreement, then okay. Even if we have to make some concessions and sacrifices, okay, that's what I would advocate for. But here's the thing. Neither I nor any of you get to decide when Ukraine stops fighting. The only person who gets to decide when Ukraine stops fighting is Ukraine, right?
Yeah, no, hold on.
As long
What?
as stop, and as
No, we're funding
Hold
it.
on,
No,
man.
we're
Let's-
funding
can't force
it.
them to
You
make
can go
peace.
next, but Temple.
We can stop sending them money, and they're gonna.
Hold on.
They're literally
Hold on,
gone. They're gone. They're gone.
Let him finish, and then we'll go
Hold
to you
on.
next, and then we'll go to Grid. And
Hold on, no. They're gone. That
Yeah,
might
what do you
be
think would
the
happen if
worst
the
thing.
U.S. just pulled out?
Death
It's
is
30
not
days.
the worst thing.
It'd be gone.
Republicans used to have this saying, better dead than red.
No.
Okay, let me ask you, at what point do you stop fighting? When people come into your house, break into
Dude,
your home,
Dude,
start
you're
killing
basically
your
arguing
neighbors,
that
start
they get to
raping your
decide
wife
with our
over
purse
and over
what to
again.
do.
How?
Well, the EU is also
When do you
funding them.
stop fighting?
The EU is not funding them enough. Let's say that. They need our money more than they need
Hey.
Europe's money.
Hey, Wake. Are you going to? I like your argument there. Are you going to apply that to Gaza, to the Palestinians? When do you stop fighting?
Are
When
you going to
someone
bring
comes
up the
in and
Palestinians?
takes?
These-
Oh, I'm ready.
And take.
different
I'm
things.
ready.
When someone
It's
comes in,
different
No.
Okay.
Viva Palestine.
Hamas
I mean,
is
like,
also
Viva
the one
Palestine.
you can never trust.
Israel, right? So when
Two-state
we stop,
solution.
when we stop
Hold on.
funding Israel, then the
Let's get
US
into
budget
it.
stops.
Also
Two-state
someone you never
solution.
trust.
Make Gaza great again, baby.
No. I'm muting people if I have to. All right, we're not doing that debate tonight. I want to keep my
Yeah,
channel.
that's,
as-
Let me in here.
that's
Let me in
also,
here.
That's not a debate we're doing.
Dangerous on Twitch right now.
Yeah, there's a couple topics that we
the
don't
Don't
want to
listen
go
to it.
into.
We talk about it
I
all
don't
the
want to
time.
risk my
Tyler's
channel. So we're not
fault.
gonna do
Tyler
that.
did it.
Yeah, no,
It wasn't
but
me, it was
moving back,
Tyler.
we're going to focus on Ukraine. Then, Temple, you have objections. We're going to go to Grid, then Tyler. And let's
I forgot what I was. What I just.
okay, we're going to go to Grid then.
Oh my God.
Grid,
That was
go ahead.
Tyler was the one that was ready to go.
All
I
right,
wasn't.
Tyler. All right,
Yeah,
you
see, we're all throwing
off
now.
Points.
I'm fucking ready. Let's go. Put me in
All
coach.
right, Tyler,
Put me in
go ahead.
coach.
Go ahead. And then we'll go to Pride. Tyler.
All right. In terms of like these guys, you say these guys are warmongering interventionists. I want U.S. boots on the ground. I want the United States to go into Gaza and take that bitch over. You're arguing with these fucking moderates over here. I am the warlock. Come at me.
No, we're not doing this. We're not doing the Gaza debate. We're not talking about Gaza tonight. We're talking about Ukraine. So you stay muted. Yep, you're muted. You get a timeout now. Okay.
So,
You bad.
Can I finish my point?
Yes, go ahead. Finish your point, Wade.
Okay. Thank you. Great. So the problem here is that there are things that are worth fighting for. There are freedoms that are worth defending, even to death. Death is not the worst outcome in these cases. And for
But this is
Ukrainians,
Ukraine's
and I've
fight.
talked to Ukrainians. I've had Ukrainians on my show. I'm going to have Ukrainians on my show tomorrow who are busy hiding from drones that are coming and exploding, whose
I'm not
friends
questioning
and family are
the
being
valiance
killed
of their
as we
fight.
speak, right? They don't want to surrender. They don't need Trump to help them surrender. If they wanted to surrender, they go to Moscow. What they're relying on for us is to help them. And I think we have a moral duty to support them, as well as it's our strategic and pragmatic interest to support them, because the reason we have so much wealth that we do today in this country is because of our world Pax Americana, it's called, right? So we have a global hegemony. We are a unipolar power. That's changing, unfortunately, right? But the fact that we are able to guarantee better deals with other countries, trade flows into us. We are where cheap goods flow into like a river. This has made us safer. It has made us richer. And Trump is giving all of that up. And if Ukraine falls, they're going into Europe next. If Ukraine falls, Putin's going into Europe next. That's my statement.
So, two things. One, to my good friend Gibbs, right? I just want you to direct your attention to our DMs, our DMs directly, right? You list all the things you want to discuss, right? And at the end, you say,
I did mention the Gaza thing, but
you did.
In light of recent things.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Just putting that out there, right?
Maybe not do it.
Yeah,
you're correct. I did include that, but
No
recent
problem,
things have happened that maybe not want to go into that topic tonight.
Yeah, Charlie, it's pronounced USAID, not you said. I think you said that originally. Just wanted to put that out there.
And
sorry.
For future, I'm
no,
a chronic
USA,
just for future. No, it's
Can we clarify what it stands for too?
United States, American. No, actually, I forget. I'm sorry.
Agency of International Development,
Agency of
or something like that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
So
yeah,
like
yeah,
just
I think you got it.
giving our money to the rest of the world to develop them,
Yeah,
right?
because
Yeah.
Hold on.
it's a soft
Sounds
power
great.
thing,
That's-
dude. It's
yeah.
a
Soft.
weird,
When did you
like,
guys all decide to
imperial-
start saying soft power?
That's
What the
not
fuck
me
is
saying.
happening like a week ago?
That's I can expand on that. So I have
well-known
questions.
term.
Hold on.
What the fuck
Okay.
is soft power? I always thought you needed.
Nobody said soft power ever until
hold
a
on.
week ago.
Hold on.
I don't know
Okay.
where you guys get your programming, but
because you never read it on the fucking TikTok.
no,
Yeah, right?
dude, I'm saying we've done these
Yeah.
panels for 2 years, and you all started saying soft power a
That's
fucking week ago. Don't
incorrect.
gaslight me. That's exactly what fucking
so that
happened.
means
Not
you're new
everybody
to
has.
panels.
I
means-
can't
I
say
just-
soft
this is
power.
my
Me and
first
I
time.
have used the term for months.
Yeah,
Being able to
hold on.
talk soft power.
And we've been using the term. No, we've been using the term.
This is
I don't
also
know.
this is a common term. This is a very common term. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
you'll
Like
do-
conservatives
like,
are
this
just
is not
learning
a-
this, right?
Yes,
That's
no,
not-
I get that it's a
This is
common term and that it wasn't made up a week ago, but
You
I'm
know
saying
what?
you're all
It
repeating it
wasn't.
because you hear it and you just hope
That's
it's
not
right
all
and
the
that it's
case.
the right
That's
answer, and it's
I
not.
understand
It's
that's
not.
not-
Guess what? It's
that's
not.
not
It's the wrong
your
answer.
idea.
Power?
No,
That's
guess
what-
what?
it's
The
okay.
answer to should we give all of our money away to everyone else is not soft
You can stop
power.
talking
That's
over
not the
everybody.
answer.
Anyway,
It's so
hey,
retarded.
This is
How
my
is
turn to talk,
taxpayer
so I'm going to take. Hey,
responsible for
I'm
all
going
of
to take
this
my turn to
shit?
talk, right? Sandwich way. That
Somebody
might be how
find it.
you get your ideas, but like, no, we've been talking about soft power for years on Twitch politics, right? That's the thing. But anyway, moving on. What I want to ask
Soft
something. I
power.
wanted to. Okay, right. Don't worry. Look it up in the dictionary. I want to ask our conservative friends though, right? Because Gibbs started us off saying, "Hey, are you guys open to shifting alliances, right? And so in reformatting like the way the world works. So what I want to ask is, what do you guys want, like individually, right? So Pentemple, Gibbs, and Grid. Sorry, sorry, friend. What exactly do you want, right? Do
want
you
our
want
government-
isolate? Hold on, let me ask a question. Calm the fuck down. Do
God damn it, I'm sorry.
it's fine. It's fine. Do you want an isolationist future, right? Do you want America to pull back to not fund allies if they're in trouble? Do you want us to like maybe think focus on our own borders? You know, America first. Is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking to maintain our imperial stance, right? Like our bases around the world, our ability to project force anywhere on the planet, but do that in somehow more limited capacity? What exactly do you want?
Yeah.
Love to hear it.
I think that you identified the spectrum,
Mhm.
and I think that right now we want to move closer towards that independent side. Not all the way. I'll admit it's not all the way because you make a point that we don't want to go all the way in that direction, but we're certainly too far in the other direction where we're just like, oh, you need this? Oh, some country needs something. Here, fuck it. Here's our money. We just print it, and it doesn't matter. Fuck it. Just take it. $36 trillion in debt. We'll justify it. The party will just justify it. It's fine. Like that's where we're at. We want to just pull this back and be like, hey, if your pitch is that everything's fine, I hope that nobody elects you. And that's pretty much what happened in 2024. So like arguing like, oh, manufacturing will never come back. That's probably one reason you lost. This idea that like, oh, we just have to shovel our money out. Another reason.
For soft power, guys. There's a
So-
little blue pill for soft power. My chat just told me that. I assume that they're right.
So this
And
talk
to be
about-
clear, I'm not challenging the concept of soft power existing, but what I'm saying is like you can't just say soft power as a response to like massive force.
So
I
dumb.
understand what soft power is.
It's a very,
That's
it's
what
a
I'm saying.
very, very
I'm
easy
calling you out.
explanation.
Okay. All right.
I'm not
It's a very
saying-
easy
Hold on,
explanation.
I know.
Stop down. And then I'm gonna go to Tyler, then I'll give my answer. I'll give my answer to
That's my
whoever's
chat,
next.
by the way.
Five
It's making
questions.
other
I know.
countries dependent.
know.
It's
I
a
know.
tool. It's a
Hold on.
tool of imperialism, and it's making other
Yes, and we should
countries
just give our money
dependent on
away.
us.
That's the reason that we should just give all our money away because we can just say that. We can just say soft power is the answer.
Hold on, let her
We just
finish.
dropped a week ago.
Status
New
as a
update.
power. It's why we kind of ruled most of the world.
So
Like,
you're
I don't-
pro like all this interview? You think we have a good track record across the world in intervention? You think we've
No,
done a
we
great
don't.
job?
We do horrible.
So then why do we have to keep doing it? Why do you want us to keep doing it if you've just said we've got a terrible track record doing it? Soft power is giving billions of dollars away for.
I'm not a warmonger.
Okay. All right.
I'm
cool.
not.
Huh?
I'm not a warmonger.
You are certainly willing to tolerate a lot more war than us.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna let's go to. I'm gonna let some other people
I
answer this question.
can't co-sign on codependency.
All right, Grid. What is your response to Prime's question? I want to go to Grid and then
I
Adam.
actually couldn't hear Prime's question. His mic is so low that
Sorry.
everybody else. is
Sorry,
talking.
could you ask the question again?
Yeah, sure. It's slow to you. I'm sorry if it's slow to everyone. No one told me. But I'll speak louder.
Yeah, it's a little low. I think I said something earlier, but
I think it might be the Discord. But I'll speak louder and then I can adjust the mic. But in any
I
case,
appreciate
Ask
that.
the question
Thank
again for Grid.
It wasn't a criticism. It was just an observation.
yeah, sure, no problem. Sorry. So, what I was asking is if, like, what do you want, right, in terms of a desired foreign policy? Do you want to be more isolationist, meaning?
Well,
we
I am
pull back-
isolationist. I made that very clear.
Okay, so you
I
want to be
think that
able.
it's- I think that
So
it's
does
an
that
undue
mean?
burden
Does
on
that
the
mean
American
then you want
taxpayer
to dismantle,
the
right?
world police,
Hold on.
and
Let me
we
just
shouldn't
ask the
do
other
it.
half of the question then.
Okay.
Does that mean, if you're isolationist, that you want to dismantle our bases around the world, our ability to project power anywhere, like military power anywhere in the world, the way that we
We
can
don't
do
need
now?
bases around the world to project military power.
Yes.
Russia projects military
No.
power without a single base outside their
No
country.
way does it. Russia cannot project power the way we can. That's
Well, hold on,
absolutely
hold
the
on,
case.
literally
hold on,
can't
hold
do
on,
it.
hold on, guys.
So you're
Hold on.
afraid
We're gonna
of
go.
them.
We're gonna
This is
go.
how we own the
guy.
free
You
world.
can't have it
Yeah,
both
we're gonna
ways.
come back to
Don't
that.
talk out of both sides. Come on, don't do that.
All right, go to. We're gonna go to Tyler and him
China
answer.
doesn't have
I
a
want to
base
answer this
outside
question.
of China.
Okay,
We're
there's
scared of them.
There's a few things I'm going to take a couple shots at both sides, as I always like to do.
Sure, but also answer his question too, and then I'm going to answer the question. So go ahead.
What was his question in particular?
My question
God
about them
damn it.
isolation imperialism.
Oh yeah, I got a point. I was going to actually go at Grid at his answer,
Oh,
but
go
because
ahead.
I agree
I'm
with
gonna
you
answer
fundamentally. So, in terms of the major mistake of the Trump admin, I wouldn't say what Wick's calling out as the major mistakes. What I think is the biggest mistake is when Hegseth went on stage in the EU and said that they're taking Gaza joining NATO off the table in a concession speech. Like, that should have been left at the negotiating table. That should have been leverage they used and gave up for something else, not just say it and then just, Russia could just say, well, you already gave this up, so screw you. It was just a big fumble on his part. It's because he's kind of a rookie in the position. That's what I'd say is their biggest fumble so far in foreign policy. But we told Ukraine, I'm pretty sure Iko can back this. He's my living Google, but we told Ukraine that if they got rid of all their nuclear weapons that they inherited from the USSR, that we would give them security guarantees moving forward from Russia. So we owe this to them. And when you violate previous promises of the United States on the world stage, you are undermining the credibility of the United States. You're telling the world, we're a bunch of fucking liars and don't trust what we say because in 4 years, we're going to go back on it. And you cannot do that. Trump even knows that for a lot of different things. Yeah. I want to get to you because I got two things for you so you can double team them. So the second thing I was going to go to is your critique of isolationism. What you were saying there is specifically economically based. So I'd like to know, hearing Trump's proposal for this mineral deal with Ukraine and his proposal for Gaza, where he's talking about these being economic benefits in the long term, does that completely invalidate your critique of isolationism?
No, I think he's wrong about that. I don't agree with everything the man says. I don't have to agree with Trump on this. I think Trump is wrong on many things, especially outside the country. I think that we should be making a move towards more isolationism. I don't know why we provide security for the entire EU and they don't even have to have their own militaries. But that would be, this is and obviously that's a pie in the sky thing. It's not realistic. I want to address the thing and just refresh me really quick on your position on that Russian thing, the treaty or the Ukrainian treaty. You think that that's still in effect or should be?
We owe them the security guarantees because we gave them to them 20,
right.
30 years ago.
So we actually signed a treaty on that, and then Ukraine, who was, and I will freely admit that Ukraine was basically controlled by gangsters and oligarchs at that point. We couldn't trust anything they said. Immediately after signing the treaty to demilitarize and get rid of their nukes, they tried to sell them, and they tried to offload them basically any country they could, and we caught them at it. And we said, all right, deal's off. But we're still providing them. And also, we didn't say safety and security. We said we would provide support, and we are doing that through funding. So we're not going to send troops there. Accuracy matters, especially when we're dealing with something like treaties. And when people break treaties, it's important to understand that treaty doesn't exist anymore. Except on our end, even when everybody in the world breaks treaties with the U.S., we still hold up our end. Why is that? Can you help me out with that? I would love an answer on that.
Well,
why do we always hold up our end?
Two wrongs
You
don't make a
said
right.
something, and I have a question. Can you
Well, hold
show
on,
me
before
where
we go-
Ukraine tried to sell illegally its nukes? I've never heard that.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up.
I mean, to be
1994.
fair, we haven't Pakistan hasn't even done that, and maybe if you got something, but I would like to answer the question asked as well.
That just sounds made up, is what I'm saying. It sounds.
No,
Yeah,
it's
y'all can find a source. You can argue about that later. That's fine. I I do want to answer Prime's question because Prime did allude to this earlier. I'm not a fan of international rules-based order. I think that it actually has led to worse outcomes, even though it has been more quote unquote peaceful. And the reason for that is we developed like the Cold War, right? I think we now allow, due to the Cold War and international rules-based order, allowed nukes to get everywhere, as opposed to if we had been more aggressive and not had two perennial superpowers, we could have just gone in there and done what we wanted. Because I'm an imperialist. I like manifest destiny, whether we buy it or whatever. Because I think American culture is the best culture, and I want everybody to be American. Because the melting pot has created the most wonderful culture in the world, and I think that that's what I want. So when we look at things like Panama, as an example, or Greenland, all right, I would buy Greenland if we could, and then I'd maybe retake Panama, like we read. But it's like I don't see a situation where there's not allies that can't always be changing, right? Just because I look at NATO and I see it as Euro focused as opposed to American led. So I right now our goals align. I don't like Russia. I think they're an adversarial power, and I've been avid for my support of Ukraine. I own a bunch of military-industrial complex stocks, so the war going on forever personally benefits me.
So, one question on that then,
but I'm just being
friend.
honest.
One question then. So again, like I broadly agree with you that we live in a changing world and we should be able to change as well, right? However, don't you think there's something to like the people we do ally with being able to trust our word, right? I mean, one thing we say, hey, let's like make a 10-year agreement, and at that 10 years, let's like re-up, like decide if we're going to re-up. But if we say like we're going to make this agreement, and then within 4 years we drop that agreement, right? Then that signals to the world that America isn't trustworthy, right? You can't take them at their word; it's all pointless. And doesn't that weaken us?
Yes and no, right? And this is the way I look at it, right? I'm going to use the South Korean example that Trump brought up. We get fact checked. It ends up being wrong. I'll eat crow, so be it. But say South Korea actually does have 4 times tariffs or whatever on us, and we're providing basically for all their security. Yes, I think we should maybe keep the agreement, right? We've agreed to that. They exist because of us. We should keep it. However, I do think there needs to be a reckoning at some point where some of these current deals are looked at and maybe renegotiated, because I feel like we've been too soft, right? As not enough, too much carrot, not enough stick. And I think that's hurt us, like on the international stage, where I see countries have been taking advantage of us because, I don't know, the stupid American seems to be a meme worldwide, right? Why is that? Well, because they're used to dealing with government officials, and it's a concern.
That's not why. That's not why at all. That's not why at all, dude.
That's not. It's no. It's on account of our behaviors. We're obnoxious.
Well, both.
Yeah, like our tourism. They're talking about
like
tourists and like
it's
actually
the
dealing
tourists,
with
not like the
civilians.
government
I
official.
know everywhere I've ever gone on vacation or around the world, I've been to 66 countries and they were all super polite. I was nice. I don't think anyone was.
They didn't talk
Well,
about
they don't always treat you like. I lived in Scotland and they were very nice to me, but my more obnoxious, fellow American students, they were not very nice to because they were obnoxious and American. So if you're quiet,
but we don't even argue about the semantics of why people think Americans do. I think partially part of it, at least, is because probably some of it's tourists, but I'll grant that. I was kind of joking when I said the government officials, but I also think the government officials do. There is some truth to that joke. Don't help. So I think they should be renegotiated. But does that answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
But back to moderate. Who wants to go? Somebody wanted something. I saw hands go. Go ahead. We got about 15 minutes, so here in about 5 minutes or so, I will go to each one of y'all. We'll get closing statements on the thing. But ICAP, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer your question, which was what happens if the United States changes its alliance away from the EU and towards Russia, for instance. So I just crunched a little bit of the numbers. We got a $28 trillion GDP. Russia has a $2 trillion GDP. The EU has a 23. The EU plus the UK combined has 23 points. That's the other half of NATO. Is 23.5. China has $18 trillion GDP. So if we realigned in a way that allied ourselves with Russia, we're just inviting the EU to then do the same with China, in which case their combined GDP would be 43.2 trillion to our 30 trillion combined with Russia. And we know that Russia's GDP is only collapsing further. Yeah, we can bail them out like a new alliance with the United States would. be certainly a boon for Russia, but they're on the verge of collapse. The only thing keeping their economy going right now is this war. Once that war is over, they're going to go into a full-on economic collapse. They could only be bailed out by Trump if that's where his loyalties lie, which
Or maybe
I
China.
suspect that might be the case now.
They're being bailed out by China.
I think that there's a lot of, you have Zelensky meeting with Xi, and I have no idea what that's all about. I'd like to see more investigation into what that meeting is all about. And at some point, if Zelensky determines that there's really no benefit to doing a deal with the United States anymore, at the very least, here's the thing: I don't want them to ally with China. I want them to ally with the West. And the only part of the West that they can ally with at this point is Europe. So giving the minerals deal to the EU is a heck of a lot better than giving it to China. That may be the choice that we're having to deal with. I think an alliance with Russia would be disastrous for the United States, especially if you're also talking about abandoning South Korea because of this sort of tariff thing that you've.
I'm not. To be clear, I don't advocate for abandoning South Korea. I would like to, if what he said is true, I would like to maybe renegotiate some things, but or maybe
renegotiating is a far sight from having an alliance with Russia, which was the scenario you asked us to consider.
Sure. No. Yeah, I also said, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
I know we're kind of speaking in the hypothetical here, but do you really think that if we sided with Russia, the EU would abandon us? Because prior, like the Trump first administration, he was criticizing.
We've abandoned them already. We're talking about a 25% tariff with the EU. Yeah. I think we're not. I don't think the EU would ever fully ally with China, but I do think a strategic realignment will be in order if a trade war starts.
Well, prior to this war,
I think they'll probably offer Canada a membership to the EU because Canada's finding out now that even with a renegotiated USMCA, they can't count on that for more than a couple of years. Yeah. Any new deal that they make with Trump will abandon instantaneously. Mm-hmm. They want access to a market, to a free market that they can rely on year over year, and EU can offer that, and the United States can't.
I agree to some degree. I just when before this war started, the EU was taking in almost 40% of their energy from Russia. They were fine doing absolutely full sorts of trade with them. Yeah. I don't think if we normalized Russia and made it would isolate the EU to the point of saying, all right, well, we need to go over and deal with these autocrats here in China. I don't know.
Russia has finally taken our advice and have cut off Russian oil and gas. And by the way, in his first term, Trump was telling them to do that. He was saying, "Stop doing that." That was a moment in which I was agreeing with something.
It's still number two. It's still their second most, though.
Yeah. So now that we're going to bail out the Russian economy and make it so that they can sell oil and gas around the world again, I think the EU, it's finally gotten itself relatively independent in this way. They're transitioning to EVs super fast, and they're also developing their oil and gas supplies, especially in Norway, such that whatever needs they still have going forward for this transition, they're going to be able to get a lot of their oil and gas out of Norway. So I think a U.S.-Russian alliance would be very short-sighted.
Well, they're still number two right now in terms of their energy, getting energy from Russia. The U.S. stepped into the number one spot. They converted over to natural gas, and we became their number one dealer. So, in a way, I've heard people that are against the war, like Jimmy Dore, say this was the U.S. essentially stepping in and hindering the free market so we could sell our products instead of Russia.
All right. Well,
I wish we could sell our products instead of Russia.
Oh, absolutely.
This new alliance that seems to be developing is not going to be good for that.
All right. Well, it's about that time. So we're going to get to closings. I'm going to have one announcement, little section real quick. First, I want to thank everybody that subbed and gifted bits today to all the channels. And here, we appreciate it. We love you. You make it so that we can keep streaming for you, the fans. Thank you all so much. I'm going to give everybody outros here. Tell everybody where y'all can be found. Give closing thoughts on the issue as well. And anything else. Tomorrow, I will be hosting another panel at 7:30 Central. And Friday, you can see me at 7 o'clock doing a comedy bit from Modi 201's dating show. And Saturday, I'm in the finals of Gamers Feud's gaming tournament. So, check it out. It'll be good times. Tyler, take it away. Closing thoughts, where they can find you, all that good shit.
Well, Average Debate Enjoyer, Twitch, Twitter, X, and YouTube. Working on a really in-depth post-mortem based on polling actions, going all the way back to refugee policy from the 90s to talk about why Biden lost the election. It's super in depth. I've learned a fuck ton of in researching for it, and I hope to provide that within the next couple of months. Otherwise, working on inventing housing policy based on traditional left-wing policy, making significant concessions for right-wingers based on their critiques of left-wing policy. It's an experimental thing that's going to go through several phases and different panels of different groups of people to get different feedbacks from all of them. If anyone's interested in shit like that, check it out. I also posted in the chat debate between, well, a panel on Gaza of why the U.S. should go in, and it was fantastic. 3 people that all disagree on 3 different grounds, all getting along and having a really good discussion. Check that out if you're interested as well. I think I can sway you if you're not for it. Otherwise, everything I said here was right, and these people are inferior to me in terms of intellect, and, it just is what it is. Love you guys.
Thank you so much. Grid one.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate I appreciate the invite, Gibbs. It was a good night. Had a lot of fun.
I like your fit, by the way. It's a big fan.
Like that. Yeah, thanks. My wife said I needed to look better online because I was wearing T-shirts and stuff like that. So
she's right. She's got a smart woman. Anyway, go ahead.
I know she is smart. I wouldn't have married her otherwise. Yeah, look, it was a good spirited discussion. Charlie, I'm sorry. I could not really follow your rambling. I wanted to. I tried hard. I couldn't do it. Honestly, Wick, man, you made some solid points. I appreciate most of what you said. Some of us, I don't think that you were acting in the best of faith, but hey, man, you tried. Way to go. And Prime, if I could have heard you, man, I would have responded more.
Hey, I wish you had told me. I would have turned up the mic.
Yeah. I said something earlier.
I didn't hear. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's all right, man. And to everyone else, it was great. Especially Aiko, good to see you again. The rest of you guys, I think I've been on panel with Tyler before, but not Pentuple. I like that Pentuple guy. He's all right. So anyway, everybody have a great night, and it was a good time. I enjoyed it a lot.
I like Pentuple too. Lefty seem to hate him. Let's go to you, Pentuple. You seem to be go. You're muted.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitch. I will say, sorry for getting animated. I like to have fun. It's nothing personal. I like having the discussion. I thought you guys were. I mean, I like that the way you guys think. I obviously don't agree, but I thought the panel was fun. So thanks for having me. And I don't really have any points to make or anything to close with. We covered a lot of stuff. So that was
fantastic.
Fun. And thank you.
Thank you so much. iCal.
I always have a lot of fun on these panels. I know a lot of the guys here, in different contexts, all have different things to offer. It's a pretty good balance on the panel. Good job.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Wick?
The beacons are lit. Gondor calls for aid. Maga over here is like, well, I don't live there. Who cares? Let them fight their own wars. Sauron? Oh, he's not my problem, right? He seems like that guy. Oh, Gondor is just as bad. Why do they keep throwing their soldiers into that meat grinder, right? Okay. Look, we are a superpower. If we want to retain the riches, the wealth, the prestige, the safety that comes along with that, we need to support Ukraine. We need to keep them from falling, because when they fall, the world will be a less safe place. Wars will spring up across the globe. Taiwan will be next, right? And then Putin will go in to other areas as well. Poland will be on the chopping block. Gang, if you like what I have to say, if you enjoy my rambling, okay, you can find me at Wick TV. That's WHICK TV on YouTube and Twitch. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, I will be having Ukrainian Anna on, Andrew Mercado, Lactoid, and a couple others. And we're going to be talking about the Ukraine situation in detail. So we have Ukrainians, actually, and people who've been to Ukraine there against non-smoker, Lactoid, and the Tankies. Okay, so this should be fun. Check us out. I love you all. Thank you for having me. All of you are, you were entertaining. Let's say that. Okay.
Thank you, Wick. All right, Prime.
I don't know anything about Sauron or Gondor or whatever that is, but I have heard about these things called White Walkers, and what I know is they're not my problem down here in the South. So I leave that up to the North to fight. But in any case, shout out to our friend Gibbs and anyone else here. Gibbs for inviting us, and then the people that I know, right? I know most of this panel. Nice to finally meet you, Tyler. This was a fun discussion, and Pentuple. I think you were, fantastic. I love animated people, right? And so it was a really good discussion. I'll send you guys all invites, and it's very nice to meet you as well, Charlie. Right? We always appreciate new people in this space. That's what Gibbs is trying to do here, right? Bring in new people. It can be like very intimidating, but I think you did a really good job. And hopefully we can work together again in the future. I do panels like this and other discussions, right? So React content and anything on my channel. If you liked what I had to say here, if you liked our interactions, or if you want a panel even more crazier than this, then what you should do is follow me on Twitch and YouTube. Twitch.tv or youtube.com/PrimeKai, PrimeCayes. I would love to have you. And again, thank you to my man Gibbs, who's been such a great host.
Well, Prime, thanks for having me. And also, that's why Prime told me to shut the fuck up and not Grid, because he's used to telling me to shut the fuck up every Monday.
Well, I wasn't on there
this
week.
It was just happening.
I
That's
was
what
stuck
it
in
was.
traffic.
Yeah, I was like, damn, I'm
Be on
catching
there this
strains
week,
over here,
see?
Prime. And finally, last but not least, Charlie, thank you so much for being here. Tell us everybody where to find you, what you do. Also, I know she's looking for people for her stuff going forward. So y'all check out her debate stuff going forward. It's good. It's a lot of different formats, so it's pretty cool. So check it out. But Charlie, go ahead and tell us everything.
Hi, I'm Enemy Charlie on Twitch. I just want to thank you for having me, Admiral Gibbs, and I want to say that I had fun. Sometimes it was a bit hard to follow, I think, just because we were a bit all over the place, but I did have fun. Though, Grid One Motorsport said that my rambling was hard to follow. Out of curiosity, did everyone else feel that way? Did you have trouble?
There was one time. There was just the one time that was like pretty
I think it was
egregious. I
maybe
thought, but
early
we really
in
don't have to get into it. I think it was just us
The
struggling to
orgy stuff
follow the
was
relevance.
weird,
It wasn't
but
like
other than
you
that,
were
you were fine.
nonsensical
We
and
can
you
hear
couldn't
you.
articulate anything. It was
I
just
think
confusing
when
to
you got
us.
the pen and paper. Once you got the pen and paper, it was all bam, bam, bam.
I thought you did a good job. I
thought you
didn't.
were fine. You did
I
great.
just
You
would
did
like to.
excellent.
I would just like to make certain that I wasn't,
No,
Yeah,
it's.
you were too nice. You were too
Well,
nice.
I think
to
we
me,
got
and you said
confused
it was
when
half, and you got
the one
You
thing.
did
all right.
great.
Well, I'm
You
just,
did great.
like perhaps Grid is acting like he's never heard the term soft power before, so clearly he's not very well
I've
read.
heard it.
So I was thinking
just-
that maybe I might
That was
need to, like,
me.
dumb
I was
myself
pretending
down
I hadn't heard it.
slightly,
Yeah,
that was me
actually-
in
pretending
case,
I hadn't heard
that
it.
so I'm glad that the rest of you kept up. That's good. That's good to hear. But yeah, if I do, I'll add you
By the way, I
on,
looked
and the next time
I need
do
a new
debate thing,
closing. I'm just kidding.
you're
word-
all welcome to join.
There's a word frequency analysis tool that you can use on Google. It's called Ngram. I looked it up. Soft power started getting used a lot in political circles around the time of 9/11. So if pentuples like
What a coincidence.
sort of
I was
most of
four.
his
That's
education
crazy.
happened before
No.
9/11, then I can
Well,
understand.
No, I count.
why you-
I was okay. Just to be clear, I was just making the point that like this term has like clearly increased in its usage in the last week to make this point that we should. That's
Well,
all I was making. I'm not
increased
saying it's like
9/11,
not a real
so-
term or
For you.
anything like that.
For you,
No,
this is the most your feeling of it.
people
For
have
you-
said soft
I'll say
power.
that.
Yes, people have
Alright,
used
alright,
the
I do
term.
have
I
a-
feel like you guys are
I
gaslighting me.
I actually have a hard out, so I will do have to end here.
Come on, get
Charlie,
inside.
you gonna be shooting for a while after this?
Potentially, I might. I don't know. My shit's being blown up right now, so maybe not. But
If not, that's fine. I'll
Possibly.
just make somebody else. I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you
but I
so
did have
much.
fun.
We'll get this going. I have to get out of here. I have to go hang out with the Latinas at the dance hall because
my
I'm a
God.
degenerate. So y'all be good.
Alex,
And
fine.
Admiral
so-
Gibbs, you got to
I-
teach me. You got to teach
Yeah,
me.
yeah. To learn to dance, my dad told me a lot of things. He's like, "Son, you ain't too pretty and you ain't too funny. You better learn to dance." Like, all right, Dad, that's good advice. But all right, y'all be good, and I'll see y'all later. Thank you so much for coming. Follow everybody, and until next time.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Last to leave is the least gay.
Pentemple, before you go,
It's the bullshit.
No, I'm just kidding.
Temple, just the last, on the soft power thing, right? Like you're saying, it's been increasing. I'm not trying to bust your balls.
Yeah, no, I was just making the funny point that like you guys are all just like, yo, soft power, that's the answer.
Like
we should just send money
because
to
if we're
soft power.
talking about an agency that we believe uses soft power, of course, we'd be talking about it more, right?
I agree with you 100%. Okay. There's times where soft power is like a totally legitimate concept. I'm just saying, like my argument was more like it seems like within the last week or so, especially with all this like sending money overseas stuff, it's just like everyone is saying soft power. Like these panels that we've been doing like this last week, I don't know how many times I've heard it. So I was just making the point that it's like people have kind of like latched onto this answer and like, oh, this is the answer, and it's like that could be the answer to justify like a program here and there. I don't think like it's just the answer to like, oh, if it's international development, we like there's always a soft power interest every time we send money. I don't know that that's true. Like and soft power isn't something that I think we just pursue like aimlessly and like, oh, if increases soft power, then better. Like it's just a more nuanced thing than that. I think.
I think I hear you on that. Like not pursuing it aimlessly. Now I don't agree, but I understand your point, right? Like I think you're conservative, so you're definitely going to see this differently, but it's fine. Like that, it is just a good for us to be like sending out like aid that helps other countries, that like helps with the spread of diseases, helps.
I'm not as much of an isolationist as Grid. I'll say that. I'm not as much as an isolationist. I am like you. I am not like going to just automatically reject any sort of like aid or like anything like that. Yeah. I just think that we do way more than like what is necessary. And one of the points I wanted to make on the panel with this whole Ukraine thing is like, I'm not saying that Ukraine doesn't have a valiant fight for their freedom and stuff like that, but the United States governs the United States. Ukraine is not a state. And there's a distinction between the two differences. And that is kind of sort of being ignored. It's like we're kind of treating it like the world is states, and it's like there's a difference there, and it's not like we abandon them, we want them to fail. And I'm not saying we can't even like step in and help, but we're kind of treating it like it's Florida, where it's like if it was Florida, anything Florida asked for, we would give them, because if they needed it, we would fucking give it to them to protect. That's what we do for our states. You know what I mean? With Ukraine, it's like we got to have some sort of financial interest or some like there has to be something that actually justifies what we're doing for them, since they're not in the pool of states that pay to us.
We don't do anything for free. Like one of the things I wanted to point out in the panel, I just didn't have time to do it, but is Cambodia. The USAID that we took away from Cambodia, immediately the very next day, Belt and Road came in and said, hey, we'll pay for that demining program that just got defunded by USAID. Why don't you come to us instead? By the way, we also want your minerals. So instead of giving that to the United States, give that to us, because now we're the ones helping you out, be our friends. And they did the same thing for, let's see, what were the other countries that recently it's been Nepal, the Cook Islands, and Colombia. USAID pulled out of all three of those. They had very specific things that they were doing. And then Belt and Road came in and said, oh yeah, we'll take over those programs for you. Just be our friend instead of America's friend. So I just don't know how happy we should be that China, through their Belt and Road Initiative, is picking up all this new business. And the second thing I wanted to respond to was this idea that we're giving them all our money. If you define all our money as less than 1%, then I guess we're giving them all of our money. But 99.x% of our money is not going to these things. Yet we're getting a lot of benefits from what we're giving it to them, because we don't do it out of charity. We do it because we want them to share their resources with us instead of with China.
Sure. Okay, so I guess there's a couple things there to respond to. Trying to think. There's one thing I had on the first part, which was I think I would respond to the part about like, oh, okay. So it's like with Doge, when people keep assigning like, oh, it's a mistake, Doge fired these people and had to rehire them. As far as I'm aware, some of these cases, not all, maybe all, but I'll say some of these cases are cases where a department is being shut down. This person is a valuable asset in the government, the worker, right? And so we're moving them to a different department. It's not like always like these people are just like bumbling like, oh shit, just gonna rehire. Like there are times where people are going to be like, look, you're technically being fired and you're being rehired in this department because we're doing a lot of restructuring. And so like, in the same way,
Elon said it was a mistake to fire them, and we need to hire them back. That's what he said at the cabinet.
Yeah, and
sure, that can be true.
Because I haven't heard.
That can still be true.
Can you show me where they're doing rehires? I haven't heard this, so maybe you have some.
Well, that's how they call. That's that's obviously how they're getting rehired, right? They're catching the mistake, right?
People who are in charge of the nuclear weapons.
No, but I'm saying this is the process of restructuring, is what I'm saying. In the process of restructuring, you might let go a department and then realize that some of the people in that department are vital, and like we're saying, this is what we'd want them to do. If you guys were saying this and they hadn't been rehired, you'd have a better argument. But Elon rehired them, and now you're like, oh, you made a mistake, and it's like, no, he actively did not make the mistake by rehiring these people. That's like correcting the mistake.
No, Pentemple. We're saying multiple things here. One, again, if you said something about reshuffling, and if you could provide me some sort of source about the reshuffle in terms of moving people to other places.
Isn't that inherent when you have somebody who's leaving one department and coming in another? Isn't that the definition of a reshuffle?
I haven't heard that. So if you have information about that,
but
I haven't heard that.
That's what we're doing. We're shutting down departments. This is people are going to be moved around. That's restructuring.
As far as I know, we're just
no, but that's inherently what it is when you're how is it not restructuring that we're shutting down departments and essential people are moved into other places?
As far as I know, those essential people aren't being moved to other places. That's what I'm asking about.
But we just said they had made a mistake and had to hire them back. Correct? Isn't hiring them back correcting the mistake of letting go an essential employee?
That's different. That's rehiring them, right? So like if I'm in charge of like a climate science at the EPA or whatever, yeah. And then like you fire me and then rehire me back to the same post, that's not a reshuffle. That's what I'm asking about. Like did they like this person was fired at the EPA, did they go to work for NOAA instead, right? If you have information on that, I'd love to hear it. That's what I'm asking.
Well, I'm saying okay, here's what I'm saying. It's like there's going to be cases along the spectrum. There's going to be cases where it was a total mistake. There's going to be cases where it was an intentional, like we're moving you to this department. That's almost certainly going to be like every bit of that spectrum is going to be represented in a restructure. Like that's what I'm just saying is like what we're doing with Doge is essentially restructuring the government. By definition, we're removing departments that are unnecessary. We're removing funding that's unnecessary. We're shifting things over to this department to take care of it. Like we eliminate cancer research and we're like, oh, there's no cancer research. No, we're gonna have cancer research in other areas.
The greatest funder of the government is the greatest funder of that cancer research. That's where most of the money. You're right. There'll be some other place, right? People give to what's that big cancer?
Well, there's tons of them, aren't there? Right? I mean, there's tons of them.
They don't have the money that the U.S. government does. They never have. They never will. Right? We understand.
Okay. Well, do you think that this program that we cut represents like 60% of cancer research? Like, what are you suggesting it represents?
I can find that there's an article that's talking.
Right, but I mean, could you imagine that one program is doing 50%? It could be like possible, I guess.
The NIH isn't just like one program, right? Like NIH like gives money to all the other programs, right? So like it is the grant provider, right? So it's not just like one thing doing one experiment or one research project, right? It's doing ones across the country and I think and maybe other places around the world. But like at the very least, and our research is used certainly around the world, right? So it has a multiplicative effect. Is what I'm saying.
Right. I mean, we share the interest in we share the interest in these goals. I just think that it comes down to like the government is not operating sustainably at all, remotely sustainably. And so like, and here's the thing when I think that is sort of, it comes to the fraud question is people be like, oh, like this is on paper, like an obviously good thing, but isn't that how fraud works? Like you're not supposed to be able to obviously detect it. Like you're going to put down like a legitimate reason and then it's just not actually going to be happening. But everything on paper, that's how that's literally what fraud is like you make it look good on paper. So even the stuff that we're like, oh, this is clearly good, I'm like, I'm not convinced it just like off rip that this is like all on the up and up. Just because it says cancer research doesn't mean that that's actually what's happening with the money, especially our government.
I like
their track record is horrible.
Hold on, I'm not sure about that, but I like your skepticism of anything, right? You should be skeptical of the information that you receive, right? I'm asking you to be skeptical of Doge. So I'm going to put in our group chat. Sure. It's an archive link, but it sends you to the New York Times, so don't worry about that.
I'm just going to give it to Grok and tell him to make an argument against it, and then what?
Sure, okay. Well, this archive link that I just shared is just a New York Times
makes
article.
A lot of arguments against Doge.
It's a New York Times article, right? And I'm just going to very quickly read the first two paragraphs, very quickly.
Sure.
Elon Musk's Doge has deleted hundreds more claims from its mistake-plagued wall of receipts, erasing $4 billion in additional savings that the group said it made for U.S. taxpayers. Last Sunday night, the group erased or altered more than 1,000 contracts it had claimed to cancel, representing more than 40% of all contracts listed in the site last week. The deleted items include 5 of the 7 largest savings that it had claimed credit for just last week. At the same time, the group added about 1,000 additional canceled contracts worth smaller savings, right? So what I'm saying is that you should be skeptical. I like that, and I want to encourage that in you. But you should be skeptical of Doge, right? Skeptical of a department that's made an endless number of mistakes or seemingly like outright lied, right? Especially with the Tesla situation in terms of like the State Department buying Tesla cars. At first it was said that was under, people thought maybe that was under Biden, that Tesla contract, like $400 million to buy like armored vehicles. But actually that happened later on, right? That was an altered contract.
Wasn't it canceled or no?
It was just canceled. Yes, it was just canceled. But like that happened, that there was a lie that happened. It was like literally just a cover up as to what happened there. So all I'm saying is that like that skepticism that conservatives always tend to have with government, right? Then keep that energy, but also apply that to Doge, right? I'm sure they've done.
I mean, yeah, sure, but like I think you're treating Doge like they're the ones that are signing off on the cuts. They are literally, essentially, a data collection agency providing extensive data that the government has never had access to because they don't know where the money's going. No, that's why we're not passing audits.
They have access on. We do audits all the time. The Pentagon is not passing audits. That's true, right? But other agencies get audited all the time. Other departments get audited all the time, right? And they can pass those audits. So like save that energy for the Pentagon. But specifically, right, we're talking about we already had processes to do these, right? You could say maybe they were slow and efficient, but we have processes to do these.
Right, but processes clearly weren't working given how like bloated this spending was. I don't think that like I don't think there's okay. There are things that Doge has found that you guys agree have been ridiculous, right? Like is there you guys don't agree with that at all?
In particular, because whatever it is, I'm gonna have to look it up.
I mean, like the Sesame Street propaganda shit for Iraq. Like, seriously, like how does that even come to like an idea?
Can we look that up to see this is a real thing? Because like if it's
they're funding children's shows in across the world, trying to like do whatever.
I don't know what it is, but let's just like.
Well, okay, let's just assume that there's something that they found that you agree is absolutely out of question. Nobody would support.
Let's assume the other way around. Let's assume the other way around. Let's say we are supporting Sesame Street in some other country, right?
Okay.
Like, what if that was that sent pro-American messages, right? Talk about like, hey, America is great, right? And in a kid-friendly manner, right? To get them introduced to us, and so that they don't hate us at the start, like let's say
that's how you would justify it, I guess. But like you're like giving the pitch to the people that should absolutely not accept your pitch. Like no, like you know what I mean? Like you're making the argument that the person in this position trying to justify it would make, but like no, we're not going to spend money on TV shows for foreign kids to make America look good.
Hold on. But here's my point, right? Like it might sound on its face because. I reverse what you said previously, right, about fraud.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it might sound bad.
Even if it sounds bad, doesn't mean it's necessarily bad.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. I just think, like, generally speaking, our government is bloated. This data that Doge is providing, like, Doge is not signing off. Like they said, Elon is not elected. He does not, like, I don't even know if he's signing off on anything. Like, he's a federal employee in some sense, I guess, and he's gone through all that stuff. But, like, I don't even know that his signature is, like, impactful on any of this. What they're doing is having these government systems compile. They're using AI to do it, which is why they're like 19 to 25-year-old like little nerds that just know how to do computer coding.
But they don't know how to
provide this data to the departments.
But they don't know how to do it.
Well, you can. I mean, you.
Okay, we can talk about. We can talk about the joint session, whatever, last night, right? Talk about that. In there, Trump made the claim about Social Security, right? Saying that there's so many apparently dead people involved, right? And said millions and millions of these individuals. Okay, so with these 20-year-old tech workers, and I used to work in tech, right? With these 20-year-old tech workers, the mistake that he just made is saying that, well, if a person has an age of like 143, that must mean that that's.
But it's a coding error. I've heard what you're saying. Yes. I've heard what you're saying. But this is just. Hey, can I make a point? This is just like the male boxer in the Olympics, where when Trump keeps repeating it, he might have more information than you do.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
He's right again.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Not on this. Not on this. Like,
no, he almost certainly does. I would put $20 on you that in 6 months you're proven wrong on this.
Pentuple. Then okay, I'll do that. Right? We can do that. Actually.
$20 for fun.
$20 on. So let's be very clear. We're betting
6 months.
Hold on. Let's
September 5th.
Let's be very clear what we're betting on, right? We're betting on that in terms of Social Security, right? That the claims that are made about like the millions of additional dead people, right, where checks are being sent out is actually true. That's the claim that we're betting on. Is that what we're betting on?
We're betting on that there are people collecting Social Security or were collecting Social Security that were listed at over 150 years old.
Okay, Pentuple, before you
That's the
take
same
this
thing, right?
sucker bet, let me just tell you.
Isn't that the same thing?
That if you you probably already have read this. I don't know, maybe you haven't, but I was in IT a lot longer ago than Prime was. And we, a lot of people I worked with were COBOL programmers, okay? And in COBOL, the starting year was 1875. So if you started that year at 1875, you would be exactly 150 today. And the accounts that they're talking about, where people are collecting Social Security checks who are 150 years old, the reason it shows them as 150 years old is because it's an accounting practice inside of the COBOL program that starts its clock at 1875.
That's an argument. I don't know that that's necessarily
it's not
true.
an argument. It's a fact about.
How do you know that that's a fact? How do you know that that's a fact?
With COBOL back in the day.
I have looked into
this.
Okay, no, I get that, but
you're okay. I looked into this. Let me jump in.
I'm not challenging you that the code can function like that. I'm challenging you that they don't have any evidence that people are collecting Social Security who are either dead, have been dead for a long time.
They walked that claim back once it came out that this is.
Didn't he say it yesterday at the speech?
Hold on. Because he still made that claim in the State of the Union. So I've seen this address. What they're saying.
Because he forgets what he's walked back and what he hasn't.
What they're saying is this is a very 101 programming critique, and as a programming developer, I could tell you that just a simple API to translate COBOL into whatever database language, like MySQL or SQLite is probably what they're using, is super easy to do. It's all taken care of on the back end. You don't even need to do anything. I highly doubt they're using the COBOL databases when they're taking in this information.
If that was true, wouldn't everyone from before that year be listed up at that high? And wouldn't it be like way more than the number that he gave?
From before 1875? The reason they picked the year 1875.
Wait, 1875 or 1975? 1875?
1875.
Yeah.
It starts in 1875, which is why they're showing. Look, if you were born in 1975, there's a good chance you'd still be alive today. You wouldn't have these ridiculous 150 year numbers. It was 1875, which was exactly 150 years ago. That's why people are showing up. Because if you're showing up as year zero, in other words, if it's an empty set account, then you're going to show as 150 years old. All of these reports that Musk kept talking about were these accounts that showed 150. They weren't accounts that showed a whole bunch of ages. They were just accounts that showed 150.
Yeah, and there's multiple things here, right? So when he's saying empty set, he's meaning they did enter a birthday. Right, so they were entered into the system, but they didn't put a birthday in. If you don't put the birthday in, it defaults to 1875. So then you'll see a bunch of people with those birthdays, but obviously they never existed, right? Like,
so you're
like, go ahead.
Does it matter? Okay. I'll give you this. Like, sure, perhaps you guys are correct about how the code is working.
Okay.
Is it not more important that people are getting checks that are dead? Like if this number is correct, okay, so you're challenging like the whole validity of the entire claim, like not just the coding thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason why, because
you guys are wrong about that.
There's an age cutoff. I believe it's 115 years. Where like regardless, Social Security doesn't pay out, right? So if you happen to live past 116 years, there won't be a payout. I believe that's the cutoff date. And you'd have to actually reapply or some shit because you actually managed to survive. But that's automatic. So they understand there's that default messiness in the code, and they just put a simple fix in there. At 115, you don't get a payment.
If what you guys were saying was so blatantly obvious, how did it get through the entire White House?
It was obvious
doesn't that
to somebody
suggest
who knows COBOL. It wasn't obvious to the 19-year-olds.
Right. And this is like the same thing with I just don't see how you guys don't see that you walk yourselves into this wall over and over and over again. You guys really don't think anybody's collecting Social Security for years after they're dead?
Dude.
You really don't think people are getting access to their bank accounts, like their kids and stuff that are?
What we're not saying is that there's never been a case of fraud. We know there's been cases of fraud within Social Security, right? What I'm specifically pushing back on, what we're betting on, right, is the millions of individuals, right, with these ridiculous ages that are receiving those checks. That's what we're betting on. And so, like, you're saying, well, how does it get to the White House? So the White House isn't full of programmers, right? The White House doesn't know any of these things. Of course not, right? So, like, you're saying,
I just feel like it's like the Trump is dumb argument. It's like you really think
there's a lot
that they just missed the most blatantly like that's
yes,
you guys, like
actually, because they just did it.
Every time you guys make this assumption, you're wrong.
This is
Like you guys did the same thing with the boxer. Remember when you guys all legitimately thought the boxer was a woman? You guys remember that?
No, stop. Don't let us not.
You guys were wrong. You guys were this passionate about it that time, and you were wrong. It happens all the time.
Stop trying to.
I'm just saying, if the basis of your argument is just that they're dumb, that's not compelling.
You don't know what my position is in the boxer, so let's move past that. And that's not what we're talking about.
Oh, you thought she was a girl.
That's whataboutism. Hold on. Like, you're making a claim,
no,
right?
I'm saying when you're relying on the argument that they're just dumb,
all right, so
like, there's not a compelling argument.
We're making $20 bet.
I don't even know what bet we're making. I'm just saying there's people collecting.
Let me reiterate the bet.
There's people.
I can reiterate the bet. Okay. Again, like the claim is that you're making is that when Trump was talking,
there are
about
people well over 100 years old collecting Social Security.
Not just over 100 years old, right? Like over like 115 years old.
Sure.
Yeah.
The point is
that. And in 6 months, that'll be proven correct, right? And my thing about the cobalt nonsense, that's not true. That's what we're claiming. That you're betting on. I take that bet. You agree?
All right, $20. For September 5th. September 5th. We'll keep it stuck.
So there's
Good
a
for both of us.
left
We're
out
still
here.
talking
Can I
about
jump
them
in
anyway.
here? Because you guys should have let me go in before you made this bet, because I can clarify a lot of what you're talking about here. So this cobalt issue you guys are talking about, it was somewhat
I'm not saying the
addressed.
cobalt thing can't exist, by the way.
They was somewhat addressed. All they need is
this.
an API, but all this does is cover some of those people that are over 150 years old. There's people that are left on the rolls that are under that age that don't fit into this cobalt era. Generally, I would say the majority of people. Yeah. So what you're talking about with those, it's that missile silo in Pennsylvania that Musk mentioned one time at a rally. What's going on there is he's basically saying we can only get people off the rolls fast enough as they can clear that out. We have a massively outdated 60-year-old government inefficient program that Musk is pointing out is still there. It was what remember the VA scandal under Obama with a similar, it was like everyone's still writing shit on pen and paper. We had an updated amount of computer. It's similar to that. Okay. It's not exactly the fault of the administrations. There's just a can that was kicked down the road perpetually from 40, 30, 20 years ago.
Sorry, what's the claim that you're making here? Because I'm a little confused.
There's a silo in Pennsylvania where they keep this Social Security information, and it's all on paper documents. And the reason why a lot of these people haven't been removed from the rolls yet is because they can only remove them as fast as people can go in and clear out these claims to remove them from the roll. There's no proof right now. The Trump administration has offered zero proof or zero claims that anybody is actually getting these checks. They said they're looking into it on multiple occasions.
They've said that before, that they're getting these checks.
I'm looking.
That's what's.
I was gonna say, didn't he say that in the speech too?
No, he did not.
In any case, that's what Pentupple is saying, right? So
yes. But Trump did not say that. His administration did. I watch every single press hearing, every single press conference, every single speech.
Then Tyler, what are they saying then? What are they saying when they say that people are getting Social Security?
Yes, the ages on the road. This is all from Elon Musk. He talked about all this. The silo in Pennsylvania. He talked about this at a speech. Trump talked about this. They're saying these ages are on the rolls. They're saying they're looking into right now if anybody is receiving the check or if these checks are going out. They have not stated they found a single person yet.
Okay, so then they're saying there is no fraud to be. So far, they haven't actually found any fraud. And that's what that means in the end, that they actually still haven't found any fraud. So these claims about Social Security, right? No fraud yet. Maybe there's fraud. They're looking into it.
Hey, you might win the bet. There's a reason I put 6 months on it. I gotta cross my fingers.
In a government program,
I would argue this: in order for Pentupple to win this bet, there would have to be arrests, right? Like if tons of people are doing this, they've got to go to jail. Like this is
they're dead. It's the point. Wait. I guess the people who've been taking the money,
not even a problem.
The offspring, right?
But
there is if it's
whoever's collecting the checks would have to go to jail.
Yeah, that person go to
jail.
Right,
but do you? Okay, let's say you take care of your elderly grandfather and his bank account. You have access to his bank account as like a custodian, not direct access or something like that. You just have a card with his name on it, and they don't stop funding it. Are you breaking a criminal law by not reporting it? Perhaps you are. I'm not saying, but what are you going to charge these people for if they're just No, they're not cashing a check. They have access to this little bank card with dad's name on it. Dad died 2 years ago. They still load it on the card.
Well, hold on.
I'm not
if
saying
he died
anything
2
about
years
it.
ago, then he's not 150.
Well, sure, but I'm not making that argument. That's not a hill I'm going to die on.
5 years ago, and it's still.
I would have made it more than 20 if I
that's-
was like super passionate
That's pretty
about it.
bad.
Hold on. I'm just like I'm looking at this article right now. Tyler,
Oh, you're good.
right?
What's up, Ranger?
Tyler. They says so in a post in social media, right? Elon Musk has only built on the claim that on social media, including screenshots of data he says shows millions of people marked as alive, quote unquote alive, in the social security system when they clearly can't be. And then quote, right, this is what he says in this post, maybe Twilight is real and there are a lot of vampires collecting social security. He's claiming people are collecting social security.
Right.
Maybe being the first word there being.
It's basically okay. Like whether like getting regardless of the coding and the process and stuff, isn't it just really about our social security system is not functioning in a way that we can be totally confident that the only people collecting it are eligible to collect it?
No,
like we don't know that.
We don't know that. We don't know about literally any system that's been built by man, right? And there's no mistakes in that system.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be some.
I don't know about that.
There will always be some. Of course, like you believe unless you think that.
But that's just like a dismissive
right?
type of argument, isn't it? You're just kind of dismissing the whole point.
Are you a man of God? Are you a man of God? I don't know. I'm asking.
How dare you?
I'm just asking, yeah.
I mean, I am, yeah,
Okay, well,
but I just mean
then I think you would believe like God like provides perfection and then man cannot, right? So like any system built by man, like it's just going to have mistakes. It's just the way it is, right? So we can't be sure of that at all. However, Social Security, right, and Medicaid and Medicare have have huge amounts of oversight into these systems, right? So the amount of fraud there and waste is extremely minuscule because they've been having this fights you're talking about right now for decades. Republicans have been talking about this, and we've actually been addressing that. So no, we don't actually need a Doge to come in and very badly misunderstand data and then tell people there's been fraud where there has been fraud.
He's right. In 2008, there was $2.4 billion transferred in Social Security fraud from the United States to Mexico in just October alone. That amount has dropped in recent years.
That's a different type of fraud, but I guess it goes to the point of
it's
overall
identity
fraud.
theft. That's how you get it.
Right.
Identity
That
theft
makes
leads to
sense.
Social Security fraud. That's exactly what they're talking. Like Trump's alluding to.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of like what I'm saying is we need to we just need to have we're coming into the age of AI, we're coming into the age of computers. Like there's no reason that we have to have systems that aren't like here's the thing, you're saying no system's perfect, right?
Yeah.
My bank never accidentally gives me $1, right? Like my ATM never accidentally shorts me on cash. Those systems are really fucking good. Seriously, think about it. Like the ATM is not going to accidentally give you $120.
It actually has happened sometimes. It has happened, but I get.
Well, sure, okay, right, but like the error that they're willing to tolerate is extremely low, right? Like they're not willing for that to be an error that happens all the time. Like maybe once across the country a day is tolerable or whatever, but like generally speaking, it's like I mean, it's just the same, I guess, logic I'm applying to the government. But I kind of brain farted.
No, Pentemple. Like no one wants waste, fraud, and abuse, right? That's an easy thing to defend, right? But like the Mott and Bailey's, right? Like the Mott and Bailey argument, right? Where you start off with a weak argument and then retreat to a strong argument. Have you heard that term before? It's just a debate term, so no worries, right? But anyway, basically, I think the Mott is the weak one. Am I correct on that one, or is the Bailey? Which one is the weak?
That's right.
The Mott is the outside, the Bailey is the
you make
safe.
a hard to defend argument, and then when people counterattack, you retreat to the stronger argument.
The Mott is supposed to, basically a Bailey is supposed to be like a stronghold, like a military stronghold, and the Mott is like the town around it, right? Any case, right? So like the Bailey here is that we want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, right? The Mott is, well, Social Security has massive waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And then I pushed on that and saying, hey, when I'm looking at this, it doesn't seem to be adding up. Then you retreat, well, don't you want to stop waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And I'm not trying to I'm not attacking you, to be clear. I'm not attacking you.
No, I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to follow.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing it. I think that's what Elon Musk is doing, right? He can keep saying, well, I just wanted to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, and they keep getting in my way, right? But we're just looking at the contracts you're putting forward, and then they're wrong. And that's an issue.
So I've been looking into these numbers while you guys have been talking. The waste, fraud, and abuse in Social Security going to illegal immigrants has decreased by almost 80% since this study in 2008. They have it down to about 3 to 4 billion per year. Now, if we turn around and look at what unauthorized migrants contribute to the society, to Social Security just in particular, they end up putting in about 25.7 billion a year.
How?
So they're contributing just by working and paying their payroll taxes and such.
They pay the taxes. They pay taxes into
certain
Social
taxes.
Yeah.
Certain
Right.
taxes, not income tax.
How many of the population of migrants in New York City are paying those? You're talking about like the
If they-
folks on the
if they
farms
have
in
a-
Texas and
if they
Cali,
have a
right?
W-2.
You're not talking about the ones sitting on the street selling shit in New York City, right?
No, not the
If they have
panhandle.
You're not
a
talking about the
W-2.
vendors sitting there with
My guy,
fake
if they have a W-2, if they are working at any business, right? Like, and you want to get rid of those people, right? But like, if they're working at a business, then yeah, they're paying into this.
Yeah, dude. 5 out of like
No, I mean, I get that. I get that. I'm just saying it's funny that when you say that, and it's like I'm supposed to think like these people with like shoplifted goods selling like fake stores outside on the New York streets
No,
of New York
It's
City are
mostly-
like paying the taxes.
No,
It's definitely good. It's all on
It's
the up and
mostly
up.
people working in like farm industries.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? They're not
They're
the ones that are like the biggest problem. That's true. I'll agree with that.
I don't,
Not every illegal immigrant is like a total net negative, but
I'm against illegal immigration.
the very
but I just think
few
this
of
is
them
not the
are.
argument you want to go down. I think that
What do you
cutting
mean?
off the people that did everything right and jumping in line is the best argument against illegal immigration. Personally, and that they're not vetted to be.
You're just also not
entitled.
entitled. Like the immigrants that built our country are already here. Obviously, they had to be here to build it.
Yeah,
So it's like
I'm
when
just-
you're justifying like immigrants built this country, it's like they didn't build it by nature of being immigrants. That doesn't mean that people who come here as immigrants, who get literally by virtue of getting here, had nothing to do with building the country. Like it's just like it's just
So,
a weird way to justify
can you explain-
immigration.
Can you explain what you mean by that? Could you expand on that, please?
Yeah, so like people often say like, oh, America was built on immigration and stuff like that. And like even if you want to argue that America was built by people who were immigrants in the past, they didn't build it by virtue of being an immigrant. They came here as immigrants and then built this country. So when we're talking about people who are crossing the border right now, those are not the immigrants that built this country. They have nothing in common with the immigrants that were here and built this country, because the core difference we're identifying here is that they're here, they built the country. The ones that are coming up on the border are not, like, they didn't build the country because they are in the status of immigrants.
Sure,
That's
sure,
not how,
right.
like,
I think no one disagrees that simply being an immigrant means you are a builder, right? But we can like break this down in two ways. One, this country was populated by immigrants, right? All undocumented ones who didn't have permission to come here from the Native Americans.
settled.
Here,
I would say
but
settled
still-
originally and then immigrated. Yeah.
Sure, but yeah, but
There was no like government.
Construction
We
workers
applied
are
to come.
largely
We landed here, and there
Hold
were
on, but-
Native Americans on the land, and they didn't even have like self-governing like land bearers. They didn't even have the concept of owning land. They sold New York to us for $14.
But they had a concept of fairness and unfairness, and they had a connection to
Well, what
the
does that
land
mean?
itself.
What does that mean? They had a sense of they were
had
humans.
homes. No, yeah,
They were
said-
humans.
Yeah, they had homes, and then they
Yeah.
were pushed out of that land, and they didn't like being pushed
Yeah.
out of that land like anyone
Most
else.
of
It
most
didn't matter.
history, you just get killed.
Yeah,
So that's not the
Yeah,
worst
but
outcome.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? The point is that
Well, it's
like,
kind of relevant, right?
No,
It's like
no,
relatively
hold on, but
speaking, we
it's-
weren't gonna
you know
just
what,
kill them all.
okay, so if you're saying how does country get populated by immigrants? Okay, all right. Then
Yes,
who
we have
built
enough.
the country, right? Some of
Right.
them were recent immigrants. Some of them weren't recent immigrants. Just because
Right, none
we're-
of them are
just
showing
because-
up on the border.
just
None
because-
of them
hold
are
on,
just
hold on.
getting here.
Wait, of
'Cause
course,
they
hold on, hold
couldn't-
on, of course. But now you're making a silly argument as well, right? Because of course the person who just arrived today didn't build America.
No,
because
the
they
silly
just arrived
argument
today.
is the one
Hold on,
that
hold
I'm
on.
responding
But
to.
hold on, but you're throwing out a bunch of stuff, and I'm trying to respond to some of it, right? So, like, yes, that doesn't mean these new individuals coming here won't also be prosperous in the future, right? Some of them
Sure,
won't be, of
but
course
they're not
right?
entitled the same way. The whole point of this that I'm
Why-
responding to,
why
I'm
were
responding
the
to
other
argument,
ones entitled?
America was built by immigrants. Therefore, the
Why
people
were
who
the
are
other
coming
ones
here.
entitled?
Okay, when you are an American, right, and these immigrants who came here legally and contributed to America are Americans now, right? That's the status in which they contributed, right? So when you have people
We-
coming
we
here
had
crossing the border,
undocumented people
which is
come in as
fortunately
well.
not happening. Okay, what we're talking about is justifying the levels of immigration we saw under Biden. A lot of the arguments that supported this argument was that immigrants built this country, therefore immigrants should be entitled to come. That is an argument that the left makes. You might not make it. I'm not saying you make that particular
Sure,
argument, but
okay.
that is the philosophy that the
Sure,
left goes
okay,
by.
well, then
I'm challenging that by saying even if I adopted that philosophy, there's a difference between the immigrants who are here and actually built this
Okay.
country and immigrants who are showing up. And by virtue of them showing up today, we know that they're not in the category of people who
Okay.
contributed to
I
building
don't,
this
I don't,
country.
I don't know who
Thus,
made
they
that
have no
argument, but okay,
entitlement.
then it's okay because everyone here agrees with you that simply you showing up here doesn't make you a builder. Okay, we all agree that.
Well, it's just more so about we don't justify immigration. I mean, I really wasn't like even responding to you at this point. I was just
Okay.
kind of ranting to Tyler, but like the point is that it's like this justification of immigration is very often repeated, and I disagree with it on that basis because it's like there's a lot of people who just hear immigration and they think like I mean, I don't know if it's like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, these people are just like simple and they don't like think like we do and they can't grasp the nuance and concepts, but it's like they think of like immigration and they're like, America was built on immigrants, like therefore immigration's always good. It's never a problem. We could never have too many immigrants. And it's like it's like a fallacious way to see it because like the truth at the beginning of the argument, which is that America was built by immigrants, you can argue that case to be true, doesn't follow that now immigration is justified at the levels that we're seeing in the modern day. That's really all I'm trying to say.
Okay, well then I agree with that. Oh, I sent you a anyone within the group DM. That's the ABC News article we were reading before on Social Security, so you can check that out.
Yeah, what is your barometer, though, on judging with the levels of immigration? Because if you're looking at per capita, we're not taking in that much more. We're taking it with 340 million
What do you mean
people.
per capita?
We're taking in 1.2 million legal immigrants a year through our actual immigration system. So what we're seeing with a lot of people that came in under Biden, these were asylees. And if they're using the credible fear clause, 87 or 83% of them are going to be turned down and sent back unless they don't show up for their deportation.
As a lawyer, I can definitely tell you, as people who know, knowing people in immigration law, it's not like a secret that lawyers give these people advice to claim asylum. Here's what you say. Here's how you apply. Like that's a well-known thing. So like, I don't trust that a lot of the asylum cases are like totally on the up and up. I know that they're all on paper on the up and up. You know what I mean? On paper, they know what to say because the lawyers know how to advise them and stuff. But what I'm saying, as far as your question of like how many immigrants is the correct number, I have no idea. And I'm not the type that's like, we can't have immigrants. I'm about to marry someone that I'm immigrating to the U.S. I'm not against it.
How do you know we're bringing in too many if you can't tell me?
We were definitely bringing in too many.
But what is, I mean, again, these.
I'm just deafening. Thank you, Step. Sorry, Step. I almost missed this. Musk knows he'll find nothing. That's why he started claiming Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. Thank you, Musk. Sorry, Step. Thanks so much. Thanks, Step, for the super chat. Thank you, Step, for that. Yeah, I agree, guys. Like, it's not. Yeah, so I think you were making a really good point, and hopefully I can bring this up with the others. Right? Is that indeed, like he's like now changing it up to, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme, right? And not like simply paying out fraud. He's like changing it up. Thank you, Steph, for that. Like a really good super chat. Because yeah, that's because obviously that fraud, like we just patiently explained, like isn't actually happening here.
It's like our government is supposed to focus on Americans. You know what I mean? Like that's all I'm asking for. It's like the government needs to distinguish between Americans and non-Americans, and that's important because the Americans are the reason the government exists. And so, like, that's just all that. That's like that's just what a government is. Doesn't mean we break like human rights violations or anything. I'm not saying that.
I had a super chat that like had something to do with it. So thank you for $10 super chat. No problem. From a person named Step. Hello, hi. Thanks for being here. He says Musk knows he'll find nothing. That's why he started claiming Social Security as a Ponzi scheme instead. Right. So that's now the new claim from Trump. Excuse me, Elon Musk. That's a Ponzi scheme. It's not a Ponzi scheme. That's not how a Ponzi scheme works.
Okay, I agree with you. Sure, let's say it's not a Ponzi scheme. There's certainly some concerns about how we're going to sustain this system given the population growth. I think he's made a totally valid point, not necessarily that it has to be a Ponzi scheme, but in the sense that what's being paid out and like what we owe on future obligations because of the population. Like there's so many more people in the younger class that are going to age into this Social Security class. So it's like there is a problem there, right? Like what are we going to do? What are we going to do with that? Sure, like, how do we account for the fact that we have to pay out way more than we'll be collecting in the future?
I'll tell you exactly what we'll do, right? We'll release a cap on Social Security payments, right? Or
is it age?
Intake, right? No, not age. So right now, I always forget the number. I think it's 150,000, but I could be wrong, but they might be higher than this. But there's a cap on contributions, right? That each of us are making. So like, let's pretend it's $150,000, but I might be wrong on that number. That like, if you're making up to $150,000, you're taxed a certain amount, right? And that goes to Social Security. But if you make more than that, whatever that number happens to be, if you're making more than that, all those dollars afterwards aren't taxed, right? So you can have people who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and they're not being taxed on extra income. Let's bring in that income, right? And then we can fund Social Security. And even if we don't do that, right? So let's say we did nothing Social Security. I believe the number is like at 79% would be the level of like funding we'd get, right? So like the total number of funding that we get now would drop down to 79% of that if we didn't increase the endowment. But if we do increase the endowment, if we do raise that cap, then we can fully fund it. It's no problem, right? Just
that sounds like a temporary fix. No, won't we have to keep raising it over and over? Like, I mean, maybe it'll take 100 years, but like, won't we have to keep raising it and raising it if that's the case?
No,
I guess that assumes the population's growing at the same pace for the next,
like the population eventually caps, right? And remember, like a person born today, right, doesn't get Social Security, right? They have to wait 65 years. So we have 65 years for our current there's a name for it, like entitlements or something, debtors. There's a name, there's a word that Elon Musk is using for this. But like our liabilities, our current liabilities, like those liabilities don't pay out for 65 years if they're born today, right? Or if they're 20 years old, right? They're just getting started. I'm not sure how old you are, right? Then you have 40 years before there's a payout. So yeah, there's plenty of time to do that, right? And then there's always a small sliver, only a small sliver who is entering the system. So yeah, we've got plenty of time.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a lot. It's a lot to handle. And so like the thing that I wanted to touch back on, so going on that super chat, right? So my issue, you said like, hey, we have, it's okay that Musk is bringing in these like 19, 20, 25-year-olds individuals to do this, right? Yeah. I don't have anything against them individually, right? But actually we just saw a reason why that's a problem, because it actually takes a lot of experience to understand the government, right? Just like I'm explaining some things to you, right? Just like these individuals didn't understand COBOL. COBOL is extremely old language, right? And not many people use it.
Right, but it's just like, you really don't think you're missing a part of the story there? You really don't think you're missing a part of the story?
There might be a memo that I'm not seeing, right?
There's something you're missing, like, obviously, right?
But my problem is when you assume that there is something that explains it without actually providing that.
Well, yeah, because your premise is based on the fact that they're just like totally retarded. Like that's
that's not my
not
argument.
likely.
That's not my argument.
Well, isn't it kind of your argument?
No, not at all. Right? I'm examining the evidence they put forward, right, and I'm finding errors in that evidence, right? So I'm not assuming there's other evidence that like negates what I found. Right. So if they can present me that evidence, then it will change my mind.
Right. Well, I would say I don't think the kids need to understand the government or that well. What they need to understand is what their job is. No, they're data collecting. They're not making decisions. We're not asking these kids to look at the data and then decide what programs to cut. We're just saying, hey, where's the money going? Provide it in a spreadsheet and give it to us.
You gave us an example of exactly where this is an issue, right? Because policymakers, let's say you're exactly right. They're just data collectors, right? But policymakers, they make decisions based on the data collectors. If they give them bad data, they make bad decisions. So
I agree with you.
Trump,
but do you have evidence that they've made a decision on bad data?
That are age 150 years old collecting that data, or collecting the checks, he's going to repeat it in front of the nation when he's wrong. That's why it matters.
Right, but you're saying he's wrong, and I don't know that you have the credibility to make that make that certain claim.
Sent you.
Like, no, I know, but are you saying it's never possible that it could come out that he's right? There could never be evidence that comes out.
I've already stated previously.
No, I know, but that's why I'm saying the position that you're taking is as if that could not happen. And when that happens, I get to know if it does happen. I'm going to look back at you now and say, how do I give you credibility?
I've already made the bet, right? The bet.
No, it's not about the bet. I'm saying.
Hold on, but the bet. Sorry, what I'm saying is that I'm not 100% correct, right? I'm not saying that there could be some sort of a piece of information, right? Like maybe we didn't understand the database the way we thought we did, right? And then they come out and they prove you guys are fucking wrong. We were the men, like we were the guys, like we were geniuses, right? Yes, that could happen. but I'm basing it on experts, right? And my own understanding of IT, right? And all
Right, but
the
how
other
far
people,
has that gotten
there's-
you?
Hold on, but how far has it gotten them? Hold on, you saw I read you that article, right? I think I provided you the article that talks
Sorry,
about.
yeah, we've got so many open Discord
Sure.
messages.
Go into the group DM where it talks about Elon Musk having to retract all of those receipts, right? Like he said, like there's a certain amount of money that we have saved through Doge, and then Elon Musk, not anyone else. Elon Musk and Doge have retracted those, so they were wrong.
Right.
It's not like
but we're
I'm
Sure.
not like it's not like I'm criticizing a agency that's been always 100% correct. I'm like, well,
I mean,
they're
yeah, but we
definitely
just
wrong.
both acknowledge that people make mistakes.
Yeah,
So
okay,
now
so
it's
it's
like
my- yeah.
unacceptable.
And my
Did
argument
we
is that
make
these are
decisions
the
based
mistakes.
off of that before the
My
correction was
argument is
made?
that
Did
the
we
Social
make
Security is one of those mistakes. Yes, that's my argument.
wait that?
The Social Security claim is one of their mistakes.
Okay, sure. Okay, yeah. I mean, like, I'm not like, this is certainly not like a passionate political issue for me. I just
That's
think,
okay.
and I think we share the same goals of just wanting to be like efficient,
We want
sufficient,
America to be better.
like effective. Yeah, I mean, we don't want, clearly things are unsustainable. I think what we're seeing with a lot of the backlash, like every single step Elon takes, like I think that's the predictable result of the bureaucracy fighting back. That's what I think a lot. And you may not agree with that, but I'm going to tell you that's exactly how most of MAGA is going to see it. As the self-declared head of MAGA headquarters checking in, it's like this is what we expected. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this bureaucracy is out of control, blowing money.
So
I gotta cut it too. Don't worry.
Oh well, just one super chat. You can't. And he says the same thing I just said. You can't assume there is info we don't know of, and the same breath claim that Doge and Trump are transparent. So I'm guessing.
But wait, hold on. What is this? Is that not relative? Like how? Okay, leveraging the transparent argument at Trump, who's taking questions in the White House multiple times a week with Elon Musk, mind you, with all of the corporate legacy reporters in the White House. We just lived through Biden. We just got out of that. Talk about transparency. We didn't know where the guy was half the time. Like this is the most transparent we've had into our government ever. It feels like it's been a year. It's been 2 months. Who is in your chat suggesting that Trump is not transparent? But like, what did we just get out of? What is the relativity here? What do they expect? Do they want to be in the White House themselves? Trump's taking questions every single day. This is the most transparent I could ever expect an administration to be. I know what he's doing when he's shitting at 6 a.m. this morning.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I think to a certain extent, I agree with you on the transparency and that like they're talking to the press in the way that Biden wasn't, right? Like, to be clear who you're talking to here.
Tweeting, he's posting, he's everything we know. I basically have my own personal feed from the president that I can be like, here's his position in policy.
To be clear who you're talking to, I spent literally years criticizing Biden. I think Biden's a drooling mess, right? I think his brain was going, and I resent the Democrats for lying to us about that. So I'm with you there, right? And I know he hid from the press, right? So I'm with you, and he needed to because he was a drooling idiot. He can make a sentence, right? So I'm with you, but just because a person is talking a lot doesn't mean they're giving you good information, right? Like I can just say a lot.
Well, sure, but it doesn't mean transparency. You could use another argument. They're being dishonest or something.
Sure. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you on the transparency, right? But that doesn't mean just because they're talking a lot, like we shouldn't assume that what they're giving us is a lot of truth, right? I know you have skepticism towards the government, right?
Yeah.
Just apply that evenly.
Right? I see what you're saying.
I apply that to Biden, right? Fuck Joe Biden. I also apply that to Trump, and I also apply that to Elon Musk, right? That's reasonable.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, and that's a good way to end it. Hey, I love talking to you tonight, man. That was fucking awesome.
I sent you
I just accepted it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk again in the future. Have a good one.
All right. Hey, catch. See you, man.
Yep. Bye. All right, everyone. I think that was a good conversation at the end. Sometimes it takes. Hold on. Let me get out of this. Let me get out of this VC. Right. If I can get out of this VC. And let me see. Let me get out of VC. Call and jump here. Let's see my pretty face. Okay. I think sometimes it takes like exiting a panel, right? So, I've done plenty of panels, right? Obviously, right? But sometimes it takes exiting a panel to get these conversations and agreements, right? Like you see me if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you see my friend Fabian Liberty Scott. If you're not a regular viewer of this channel, that person is an ANCAP, right? An anarchist capitalist, anarcho-capitalist. And he often vehemently disagrees with me. But oftentimes we do like a after panel thing, and we can tend to find more agreement there. It's just a matter of like having limited time, and like you need to get your points across within the panel situation, and then like to do that, you kind of get a bit more, I guess, exuberant, maybe, right, or forceful, and trying to make your point. But like I think with like Pentuple, I actually like after talking to him, like I have a lot more respect with him than like I started with, with like within the panel, because it seems like if you present him with a reasonable argument, that he's willing to change his mind and be open to it, right? Which a lot of people aren't, right? He, like, as far as I know, right, he called himself the MAGA headquarters, right? He doesn't sound like that. Makes him sound like a person who's part of the cult and whose mind can't change. But with some reasonable arguments, and not calling him like a fascist or anything like that, right? Not calling him names, I think I managed to at least open his mind to the idea of just being skeptical, right? And the point is, of course, when you're having these conversations, my point generally isn't to change anyone's mind, right? It's just to present arguments. Hopefully they're sound arguments. I try my best. Hopefully they're sound. I don't know. But hopefully a sound argument, and then have people either in the panel or, more importantly, the audience, you, have them marinate on these things, right? So a certain number of you came in here and you disagree with me, disagree with my points, right? Disagree with everything about me, right? And that's okay, right? I encourage that. I love that. But I want to put forth these arguments so that you can think about them. So when you are out in the world and you get evidence, right, new evidence about these situations, this will be in the back of your mind. You might think about, oh, does this apply to the thing that Prime was saying? And maybe you'll shift, right? And also it works the other way around, because I shift too. If you are a longtime viewer of this channel, you've seen me shift on issues, saying, hey, you know what, I think you're right. Like to my friend Scott, bringing up again the ANCAP. I've said, oh, okay, I think actually you're right on this. And we've come to an agreement where I've moved to his positions. And so I think that's all possible. And I agree with that. So I'm really glad that I stayed and had that conversation with Pentuple. Because I think that, past his like initial bluster, I think he's very capable of being reasonable. And I shout out to all my conservative friends out there, right? Whoever you may be, who are the same way, right? And again, that's not saying that I'm necessarily right and that you can only be reasonable if you like agree with me. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that you're interested in like having a conversation where you're presented with sound arguments, you're presented with evidence. Like I was sending him articles like in the background, right? And that like on looking at those, like you're open, your mind is open, right? Not necessarily going to agree with me, but your mind is open. You can have a conversation. So I just really appreciate that whenever I see it. Like I said, I sent him a Discord friend request, and maybe we can have him on the Reverie. Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern, if you don't know about that. We have a really great time there. Hit the follow button if you haven't done so yet. If you're out there, you haven't followed the channel at all, consider following the channel and supporting the channel so that we can stick around. But follow the channel either on YouTube or on Twitch because we have the conversations all the time. We have a lot of fun. We get really bombastic. We get more bombastic than we were on Gibbs' panel. Gibbs is like kept it like he didn't want. He was trying to impress Charlie. That's the inside baseball there, right? He was like, "Hey, you guys, like act right. Like I know you guys are fucking a bunch of degenerates, right? This is in our group DM. I know you guys are a bunch of degenerates, but I need you to act right. We got a new person. We're trying to bring in new people into the space, and so he wanted her to have a mostly positive experience, which I think she did. But on my end, no, I live in the degeneracy, right? I'm that guy. Like I'm the problem. That's what I am, right? So that's the space that we've had on the Reverie. So if you find that interesting, check that out. We have pliable cultist, amazing. I don't know if he's I'm not gonna call him a cultist, right? If he proves himself to be a cultist, this is a Noguchi in my chat, right? On my Twitch chat. If he proves himself to be a cultist, then I'll call him a cultist. But it's just I'm saying that like of course he like if he's a conservative, he's going to agree with conservative talking points, right? All I want him is to have skepticism, just like I have skepticism, a lot of skepticism about liberal talking points, right? I'm a leftist, but so I'm probably left. I have a lot of skepticism about what liberals say, right? And I have a lot of disagreements. Just because they're on the left doesn't mean that I necessarily believe them immediately. So, and I want that for everybody, right? Whatever your side might be, I want that. What did you agree with the ANCAP on? That's a good question. Fuck. I know there's a number of things. I don't write them down, but I definitely have agreed with him on stuff, right? Like, on like not his prescriptions for the economy in general, right? Like, he wants to like dismantle the government and empower private businesses, private individuals, like put property rights before anything else. That should have primacy in his mind. And then we should like work off the non-aggression principle, like that stuff. No, right? Like on ANCAPism itself, no, certainly not. But on some of his views in terms of like how the economy works, right? We've had different conversations. Like I can't think of anything on the top of my head, but I can assure you, that's happened in the past. Like it's not something that like I get any benefit from admitting, like, oh, my political opponent has changed my mind or something. Yeah, but I'm telling you, yeah, it's happened in the past. I don't remember exactly what it is. I don't keep track of that. But like I find that oftentimes we can find at least a level of common ground, right? There's sometimes we agree, but we come at it from different places, right? Like my politics is based on compassion and empathy. That's the center of my politics. Everything sprouts from there, right? Like if you want to understand Prime's political outlook, right? If you want to understand how do I get to this places that I do, start with compassion, empathy. Like it all grows from there. His grows from the non-aggression principle, right? Like that seems to be the kernel that sprouts everything else. And we shouldn't aggress on others, right? That this is like a basic truth of the universe, and then it sprouts from there. Now that may sound compassionate. Hey, don't hurt other people, right? Sure, fair enough, right? But the way it grows out when they just start defining what aggression is, right? That tends to be an excuse as to not like marshal the resources of society to help individuals. Like so for ANCAPs, they're like, well, people should get private insurance. Like just about health insurance, like you should just get private insurance, and if you can't afford private insurance, then charities will come in to help you, right? We shouldn't have a government step in any way. But not everyone can afford private insurance. We have that right now in our country. Not everyone can afford private insurance. And then charities simply do not collect enough money, and they don't distribute it in the way that a government can, right? So I don't care if there's even taking their stance on aggression, right? If you take their definition of aggression, just like if the government taking some of my paycheck is an aggression, because they're basically forcing me to work for free, and that's basically slavery, and that's an aggression, right? That's like the property they kind of use there. Like even if that's the case, I'm okay with aggressing on people. See, because I don't look at the world as black and white. What I say all the time, I'm sorry, I'm like all over the place here, but like what I say all the time, everything's a spectrum. Everything's a spectrum. Everything you can think of, especially within the political world, is a spectrum. And so I can take that framing, saying that this is an aggression, right? Basically taxing individuals as aggression. And I can say, true, all right, it's on that spectrum, but it's way on the lighter side, right? Rather than heavier side, which would be like actual factual, like chattel slavery, right? Like it's way far away. And I can say that I don't have to treat each part of the spectrum the same. I can say that, well, slavery is wrong, right? And then pulling back from slavery, there's a level of aggression that I would say that should be straight up illegal. And then there's a level of aggression which is reasonable within a society, right? Like the government maybe having cops, all cops are bastards, but like having a police force that can enforce laws on individuals within a state's borders. like be able to take them into custody and to rough them up if they have to do so, if they have to, of course, if they have to, but like that level of state violence justifies state violence, like that's fine, as well. But and so I would also say taxation is fine, as well. But even then, there could be a level of taxation where it's not fine. Well, if the government took all our money, right? Well, okay, well that wouldn't be fine. I can do both of these, right? I can say that along spectrum, whatever that spectrum is, there are things that will be just and they'll be unjust. It's very simple. But if you have a black and white view, which I think the non-aggression principle caters to, right? Saying that simply don't aggress and like don't look further into the matter, right? Simply don't aggress. Well, then you can arrive at the thought that, well, it's better to let people die who in the streets who can't get insurance and who can't get some assistance from a charity, right? Just let those individuals die in the streets because we wouldn't want to aggress on anyone. That's the difference between my politics and their politics. So yeah, sorry, I went all over the place. I went all over the place there, but yeah. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. We'll be back tomorrow. And we're gonna have more discussions. Guys, consider supporting the channel. Like if you like, thank you for the super chats from Step, but like there's a brand new month and we definitely could use some super chats and sort of sub gifting and all that, right? If you got an Amazon Prime game, consider doing that, supporting this community. We do need your assistance. But oh, thank you for the follow, Darkly. Let's see. So hey, no FX Live. That's an interesting comment you just put in the channel. Thank you directly for the follow. I really do appreciate that. He says, I concur. If CNN picks up Prime's panel, hello to you, Prime show as is, they could double the audience overnight. In my opinion, just open honest dialogue with chat and comments. That'd be interesting. I would love it. You know what? Okay, so I'll say this. This is the last thing I'll say. And guys, consider supporting the channel if you've liked it, super chats or appreciated. We read super chats. And consider gifting bits or gifting subs or subbing yourself if you haven't done so. You get after viewing and all that good stuff. Consider becoming a member on YouTube. Just support this channel if you think this is valuable. But anyway, on that note about the mainstream media and then dying. Like, yeah, I think part of it is that you have a bunch of talking heads that represent a very small sliver of the political spectrum, right? CNN thinks likes to picture itself somewhere in the middle, right? As a moderate sort of left leaning thing. They wouldn't call themselves left leaning, but just like moderate, somewhere in a nebulous middle. Right, but wherever they are, right, what they do is they don't actually have a full spectrum of individuals coming through, right? Like think of a person like Pentuple, or a person like, again, my friend Scott and ANCAP, right? Their voices aren't represented on the right. You'll never have a conversation with those individuals, and then people like me on the left, right? I'm a leftist, in my view, certainly aren't represented there. And I think people are hungry. That's why you see like this move to the podcast space, right? Where people are having these conversations, where like there's a flood there. Because people are like looking to see their views reflected in a way that just doesn't happen in mainstream media. And we don't have like a great discussion, especially we don't have long form discussions, right? CNN is like married to like the regular like anchor style way of formatting themselves, right? Like that we have to have at most an hour long show where we usually talk about a bunch of different things rather than focusing on one particular thing and really drilling down and making sure people are heard on that, right? Like it's crazy because CNN is 24 hours. 24 hours. You have 24 hours to fill in, right? And most of what they do is start repeating the same old things over and over again, right? Like breaking news will happen at 2 p.m. and then in the 3 p.m. show and the 4 p.m. show and the 5 p.m. show, they'll be repeating that, right? Instead of like, hey, why don't we just gather that for the prime time, right? And we'll repeat and dive into that news. But for the rest of this time, let's have some like dynamic programming. Like there's so many ways that CNN and MSNBC as well, right, could increase their audience by getting them something new. The things that we do here online, within the Twitch politics, YouTube politics space, are things that just don't happen on in mainstream media, right? Like, even though they have literally all the time in the world and they find themselves repeating themselves constantly, right? They don't consider, hey, let's try something new. Let's try bringing in these other voices. And I think there are some voices that are a threat to them, right? Leftists like me are talking about dismantling the military-industrial complex. And guess what? The military-industrial complex funds CNN. Like when you see a Northrop Grumman commercial on CNN, right, where they're like showing one of their like fighters, right, their fighter planes. No one is buying a fighter plane. Why would you be advertising a fighter plane? There's no person to buy a fighter plane. They're buying that ad time, right, to fund CNN, to get their opinions pushed, right? To get one of their experts, like Northrop Grumman will provide a Defense Department expert to help interpret the news. And whether they say that or not, right? They may not ever say where this person is from. They're just like a DoD expert, whatever that may be. But they just happen to agree with an opinion that would extend a conflict, so that there be more contracts that need to be signed to places like Northrop Grumman, right? That's how that works. You see that all the time. And so like having a person like me on is like, well, I'm skeptical of all of this, right? Maybe we should dismantle that. Maybe we should rethink our imperialist stance of having bases all over the world, right? A person like that is not welcome there, right? They wouldn't even think. They think, oh, okay, that's not a serious take, right? Even though more people, like, think about what MAGA is saying, right? Like, MAGA is saying, hey, America first. That money should be used in America. And some of them will believe it, right? Now, some of them are just like repeating whatever Trump says. The cultists exist. They absolutely do, right? But others are saying exactly that. They're saying that I want America first. I want that money, right, being used for our schools, for our highways, whatever, right? Or to pay down our debt at the very least, right? That's what they want. America first. Now, if that's true, then they'd also be skeptical of like the massive waste within the Department of Defense. I don't think the conservative media does a good job of talking about what that looks like, right? They don't do a good job of explaining to others, to their audience, and I think on purpose, that there's so much fraud abuse within that system, and not giving them a sense of scale as to like the money that's funneled into that department, like the Pentagon, $900 billion per year, and it keeps going up. They don't have a sense of scale that almost $1 trillion is going there, and then the Pentagon can't pass an audit, and we don't know where all that money is going. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Are you talking about wanting to make sure that your local community, because that's what people are thinking of, really, right? Their local community has resources they need for a rec center or whatever the fuck, right? That we have a place we can start to look for. We can start to look at defense contractors that can charge 8,000% above markup, like above asking price, or retail price for items. I was just hearing a news report about that. I forget which company it was. I have to look it up because I didn't read the article myself, but I was watching a report on this, talking about like soap dispensers, right? Like just like the items in a military base's bathroom, that there's massive markups on these things, that the Department of Defense pays for. Like if the people who really support Doge, they really have a problem with that, right? They really have waste fraud abuse. Military is the absolute first place you should go. you will find a lot there. So why haven't they done that? Kind of weird. Kind of weird. That hasn't been the focus yet. No, they're just getting started, right? So let's see. Let's come back in a year. You come back tomorrow, right? You follow the channel and come back whenever I'm streaming. But let's like reconvene in a year and see if that there's a change there, right? That they actually did take a hammer to the Defense Department. I think that's unlikely because Elon Musk is the defense contractor, and that he doesn't actually want scrutiny on these things. Because if he did, I think we'd have certain questions about his contracts. That's just my thoughts on that, but I don't know, man. Like, relying on a defense contractor to cut the Department of Defense, I feel like you would think that's foolish. I think you would think it's foolish if you say, well, we're going to rely from a person from Big Pharma to clean up Health and Human Services, right? Like, you'd say that's a problem. Like, if you're Big Pharma, you're regulated by Health and Human Services, it would be weird to assume, not that it's impossible, but that a person coming from Big Pharma, like an executive, like a head of a company there, would be the one to make that change. But I'm just applying that same logic to the Department of Defense and Elon Musk, an extremely large and powerful, influential defense contractor, right? I don't know. I feel like it's not crazy. I feel like I'm being reasonable here. Oh no, FX Live. Thank you for gifting us up. Yes, gifting us up. I forgot words. But I appreciate that. And I think that you said they have till the midterms to get it right. If not, then the pendulum swings back. Two things about that. Oh no, FX Live, right? Is that that's one that's built into the plan. So in terms of the Project 2025 plan, which they're absolutely following, like whatever they want the plan, whatever, right? Everything they've done is following the plan, so they're following the plans, whatever. Even if it happens to align with like things Republicans have previously said, that just means that they're following the framework, whatever. But the plan calls for doing all this within 2 years. That like what they want to do is do massive damage to the system, right? They call it reform, but massive damage to the system within 2 years, because they understand it's going to be really unpopular. They're not stupid. The people who came up with the plan, they're not dumb. They were intelligent individuals. They understand this is going to be massively popular. They foresaw like the reaction that's happening now in Republican town halls, right? Or people are coming to Republican town halls, members of Congress, right? In Republican districts, and then like booing and like hollering at their congressmen. The congressmen look like deer in the headlights because now they got to defend Elon and Trump, and they don't know what to do, right? Like they knew all that was going to happen, and they knew there was going to be a backlash, and they also know. Even, let's pretend that none of this stuff is happening, right? Just historically, right? When a president comes in office and he has a Congress, or he has control of Congress, he loses control of Congress in the next midterms, right? It happened to did Biden have control initially? I forget. But anyway, he lost control later on, right? He didn't have that in the last 2 years. And Obama certainly, right? He had control. He had a supermajority, like for like a few days, actually, literally a few days. He had a supermajority, and then he lost that all in 2 years, right? Like go back in time, and Trump had in his first term lost it, right? So regardless, there tends to be a swing. There's going to be, but considering all this, is probably going to be a harder swing. However, by that time, that damage is done. Now, there's things that they're going to be destroyed that can't be rebuilt, or at least not immediately, right? Things that will take having a Democratic president and maybe a super majority within Congress to actually rebuild. How long will that take to have, right? Will we have that in 4 years? You think so? I'm not positive, especially with the structure of the Senate. Like I'm not positive we'll have that in 4 years. We might indeed have the presidency. We might indeed have the House. And we might have the Senate, but we might have like 53 senators. That's not enough. Not enough, right? We'd have to have a super, unless we get rid of the fucking filibuster, right? But that's not enough. We'd have to have a super majority to like start riding the ship. And even then, like, there's going to be conservative Democrats like John Fetterman. Fuck him. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Democrat from Pennsylvania, in case you didn't know, Democrat senator, who are going to get in the way, right? Just like what's his name? Joe Manchin, right? Conservative Democrat got in the way of all kinds of stuff, right? Just like Kristen Sinema, who was out in Arizona or New Mexico, one of them. I always mix those two states up, honestly. But like they got in the way of those things, right? So we could have sabotage within the party. So how long? Like, let's say Social Security is like fucked by the end of it, right? How long would it take to rebuild that? Elon Musk is talking about getting rid of, or is it Elon Musk? No, Donald Trump, I think specifically here. Donald Trump is talking about selling off buildings, right? Like physical buildings for Social Security Administration. We got like these large hubs, and he's around the country, and smaller offices, and he's talking about selling those things off. We don't get those back in 4 years. That property is valuable. He's selling off to someone, probably his friends. He's in real estate, so actually probably his friends, favors. But when we sell those off, we don't just get those contracts back later on. Those things are gone. Then where do we put these buildings? We have to lease new land, and we have to restaff, because by then it'll be years. Social Security will have been cut for years of the administration. A lot of those workers have been gone for years. They won't be around. They'll be sitting around. We'll have lost like many people who experience like centuries of collected like experience among individuals, right? Who knew how the social media SSA should work, right? That's gone. That's just gone. Not coming back. So I'm not like so excited for this pendulum swing, and I'm not like so confident that even if the Democrats get in charge, that the feckless Democrats who don't know how to fight Trump here, and who have been abandoning the working class for years, are going to be so keen on putting all these things back in place. Some of them will. Some of it will be replaced. But will the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau be in place? Is Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren, had to twist President Obama's arm to get that in place. He didn't want to, as far as I know. He had a lot of resistance. Elizabeth Warren fought to get that. So other Democrats who agree with Obama, are they going to be interested in putting the CFPB back in place? I'm telling you, man, like the damage will be permanent. So much of it gone, not coming back. Hope for the best though. Okay. So yeah, shout out to everyone who did support here and YouTube. I'm going to raid out. Let's see who we're gonna raid out to. Raid out to see, is there a gorgeous woman I can raid, because we only raid beautiful women. That's what we do here. I'm gonna stick around and talk to him, honestly. Like I literally don't even bother with that. But this is a woman. I don't know, she's at the top of the list, and so we're gonna raid her. Her thing says "pretty in pink." I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what it means, but like, I think I might have raided her once. My value has not raided, but oh yeah, I did raid them once before. Yeah, we're just gonna raid them. Whatever. Have a good time. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, you guys will come and join me. At that point in time, we'll see. But yeah, have a fantastic night, and I will see you soon.